It's 5 o'clock. Goldsboro City Council regular meeting of July 12th, 2021 is called to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Ham,
Here.
Councilmember Jones. Here. Councilmember Broadway.
Here.
Councilmember Polak.
Present.
Councilmember Matthews. Present.
Okay, we have a quorum. Councilman Aycock is out of the state, but we'll be calling in, hopefully, here shortly. This time we'll adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Move to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand, please. Any opposed? Okay. Old business. At our June 21st meeting, the council adopted a process to be used to replace Mayor Allen, who submitted his resignation from the council. We do have, as I said, an adopted process. What we need to do is to discuss putting some dates to that process. Each of the council members have been given a copy of the procedure, I'll call it procedure instead of process, with proposed dates in it. And for the benefit of the audience, I'll go over these dates. The first thing we would need to do is to, if we move forward, is to prepare an application for candidates for the office of mayor. And in discussing it with the clerk, the applications could be ready as of Wednesday of this week, July 14th. Those that are wishing to apply for the job, according to our proposed, and we will discuss these dates, but I'm just starting off alerting everyone, the public. Those that pick up a application, the deadline to turn that in would be July 23rd at 5 o'clock. And that would be turned in at the clerk's office on the second floor of City Hall Annex. The clerk will hold those applications as she gets them until 5 o'clock. And then she will open them, and the names will be released to the news media at that time. And additionally, the council members would be provided information as well. At the August 2nd council meeting, the council would hear presentations by those applicants that have applied for the position of mayor. At the August 16th, 2021 council meeting, the council will vote to select the next mayor. That in general is the time frame. The council has a copy of this in front of you. I'm entertaining any discussion or motions to accept the proposed dates.
Move to accept the proposed dates. I move to accept the proposed
We
dates.
have a motion to accept the proposed dates. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. If there's any discussion? All in favor of accepting the proposed dates, raise your right hand, please, or a hand. Any opposed? Okay, that motion is passed. I'll now turn it over to the city manager.
Mayor Pro Tem, just want to make sure that from the previous version that was sent out, you agree with paragraph 14, which Ron added here, which talks about if a council member were to run, the amount of votes required would change from 4 to 3. Ron, do you have anything to add on that?
Yes.
So if a council member were to run, the issue is whether or not there's a conflict of interest. Generally, there would not be a conflict of interest, but in our situation, because the mayor is paid more than a regular council member, there's a financial interest. That could create a conflict under the statutes. As a result of that conflict, that council member would not be able to vote for himself. So at the time the votes will be taken, that a motion needs to be made and then seconded, and a vote that he's excused from voting because of that issue. As a result, because he's excused from voting, now you have 5 voting members, so a majority of that's going to be 3. So that's why that changes that scenario if a council member were to throw his hat into the candidacy, or her hat.
And if 2 were to run,
If 2 were to run, the same thing, still going to need 3, because now you're down to 4 people. Majority of 4 is still going to be 3.
Any
as long as
questions?
council's good with that, we'll include that in the procedures.
And that is on the sheet. I think Laura
Yeah,
handed that
it's
out.
paragraph
so you can see
14
that.
on the sheet.
Yes, I tried to make it as simple and straightforward as I could in the way I put it on there.
Is everyone satisfied with? Okay. All right,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay. Then we'll move to,
Can we get a motion to adopt those amended procedures?
okay, do I have a motion to adopt the amendment, procedure with the item 14 speaks to the voting issues of council members.
Make a motion, we adopt the, with the recommended, adjustments from line 14.
I
that we
second.
accept.
I second.
Got a second? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your hand, please. All opposed? Motion carried. Now we can move to the city manager.
Yes, sir. So on the May 17th budget meeting, there was a discussion about having a quarterly update on public utilities infrastructure projects, and that's what I would like the city engineer and city public utilities director to provide to you right now.
So then,
Is the slide, is the presentation?
It's in there.
I'm getting a different screen.
No. Click the other side. It's ready, click the other one. It's not showing. There we go.
I'm still getting the same thing.
It's not coming up.
And I can't do it from memory, so. Maybe it's farther down.
While we were waiting, I noticed some cuts have been made on the asphalt at the ditch behind the church on Jackson Street. There are 2 cuts in the asphalt.
Public Works made, Public Works? Public Works might have started on that drainage ditch. I'm not aware that they started that.
I saw it this morning when I came by there.
Well, that's good. Give them some practice.
Give them some practice.
Everybody needs OJT.
I just want to thank you for paving from Carnegie to William Street by the post office.
We had
I'm
planned
quite
that
sure
all
a lot of people
along.
glad of that.
Yeah, we had planned that all along. It just took us a while to get the repairs done.
Car didn't know what to do going up Mulberry there.
Have they put the paint striping back?
No, sir.
Not
It's
yet.
still.
Okay, that's usually the last thing they do. Here we go. That looks familiar. I just needed a presentation. Can you do
I
that?
don't think so, it's online.
Well, I can't advance the slides.
Say give him just make, go ahead and start.
Okay, I'll go ahead and talk on this slide here. Well, I was going to.
Just a second. Technical difficulties. Try clicking now.
Hmm?
Try clicking it now.
It's
See
the
if it
wrong
does.
presentation up.
I
Yeah,
know.
it's-
He's working.
You skip that slide.
Just say next slide. or-
Next slide.
Is it letting you click?
Can he move it through
Yeah.
the next slide?
Yeah, next slide.
There we go.
Slow down. All right. Give you a utility funding project overview here. So far, over the past 5 years, we've spent $5.1 million. This is similar to the same presentation we gave you back during the budget discussions. The only thing that's really changed on this slide is in, excuse me, in red. The 2.7 million out of the 3.2 million requested, that was funded with the ARP funds, correct? And then we still have 187.2 million in water and wastewater unfunded projects. Next slide. These are our current projects. The ones in green are either complete or substantially complete. The 2018 infrastructure recovery project, that one should be done and it's substantially complete. We still have 2 segments to finish. That's, let's see, 2017 wastewater system improvements, that one should be wrapping up pretty soon also. We're having issues with CSX Railroad where they're doing the repairs. Next slide.
Hold on, can you go back for a second? So on number 5, that 2017 project, it's in design and approval. What's the status on the funding for that?
We're funded for that through a loan. It's a, that one's a Clean Water Management Trust Fund loan.
Okay.
That's actually not wastewater. That's supposed to be water. I didn't catch that. That's drinking water state revolving fund. Next slide. The 2019 water system improvements project, that one was one that was not funded. Well, we've got a drinking water state revolving fund loan, but my understanding is, according to the rate study, we could not afford to do that project, correct?
Correct.
And the same with the Asadra funded project below it. It's for Little Cherry, Big Cherry, pulling those 2 pump stations out of the floodplain and securing them. And there's a lot of I&I and capacity issues that run through those 2 stations there that would be corrected. And that's another one that we couldn't afford. And then,
Those are items I and J this evening, right? You're going to present those.
correct. We're gonna move forward with the preliminary engineering reports and the environmental information documents in the event that funding comes available that we can afford or whatever, we'll at least have that milestone done. I don't know how well the funding agencies are gonna look on us if we don't take those loans though, for any future loans. That's something to consider on that one. We have phase 3, we were considering doing that in-house. Could it be future ARP funding, with what's left over, what, 4.8?
4.4 in the second tranche of the 8.8, but there's also funding at the state level that will be looked at for that type of thing, so.
Yeah, there's,
As well as a lot of the other projects we'll have to see.
next slide. And these are the unfunded projects we have. US 117 has always been my priority, but as you see the price tag, $14.3 million. We don't have the funding for that. And that is such a large sum, it's hard to get funding for something like that. So I don't know what we're gonna do there.
This
But-
figure of 14.3, is that something that's
That's today's dollars.
today's dollars?
Where is that pump? Is that at the water reclamation facility? Where is it?
It is near the truck stop on 117 South.
Okay.
The old truck stop.
It's a big, it looks like a big, what, 2-story, 3-story?
If you know where the fire department training center is, you cross 117 to the west, it's right there.
Oh, okay.
Key is capacity for your growth out there.
Yeah, this could create a moratorium, a building moratorium. It is at capacity now. So, and we're trying our best with the I&I to, and maybe Little Cherry and Big Cherry will help it, extend it out just a little bit longer to give us time to get this part fixed. But, and I'm not gonna go through all of these. Big Ditch, that one's, Big Ditch wastewater system improvements, that's multiple repairs that have been done recently. That would actually cover phase 3 would cover that right there. Oak Street, these are items that are identified in our sewer study that we had done a couple of years ago. So these are the ones that we had no funding for. And then, of course, we always have DOT projects that relocate our utilities that are gonna cost us. We have a 50-50, or excuse me, we have a 75-25 share. We pay 25% of the cost to relocate them, and DOT pays 75%. And we're required to move pay for that to get them when they're in there right away. Next slide. And I think
Hey, Mike.
Good evening.
Hey, Mike.
So I'm going to try to catch you up on some of the public utilities projects. The Weir project was our non-federal sponsorship project with the Corps. The contractor was able to enter the river July 1st. Hurricane coming. Now the river's over 15 feet, so this project's already going to begin getting delayed. And that's kind of the same situation where we're at with our annual river dredge. For the first time in over 20 years, we didn't do the dredge because the river never dropped, so we've had the bypass screen open. So as soon as that river drops below 4 feet for us, we'll try to get back in the river. The plate seller project is now complete. So we've increased capacity for the city from 12 million gallons a day to 14 million gallons a day. It was a great project. It was money well spent. NCDEQ was trying to get the EPA director to do a site visit while he was in the state a couple weeks ago because of the results that we're seeing at the plant with our organic carbon and our filter run times and some chemical savings and stuff over there. So that was a project well done. Next slide. This is some of the projects that were in the budget for this year. The projects that are scratched out in red, those did not get approved in the budget. They're not getting funded currently with any of the $2.7 million ARP funds. So those will again roll over into next year, and I'll ask for those again next year. I'm currently trying to prepare some RFPs, requests for proposals or requests for qualifications, to try to package these projects together. I'm going to work with Marty in Public Works to try to do some interviews with our approved engineering firms to try to get this utility master plan underway as soon as possible. Next slide, please. These were some future projects that we had talked about. They're kind of in the near future. Replacing the filters at the WRF, they were originally put in the 1980s and have been rebuilt twice. So filter number 2, which was rebuilt in 2015, that one's already failed. I think 6 cells in it have already failed. So trying to get some new filters at the facility sooner than later will probably be a priority for us. This project may ultimately have to get wrapped up into a bigger project. So through the first 6 months of this calendar year, the plant is currently operating at 97%, 97.7% capacity, so 98%. So we're pushing towards being over the 80% rule and over the 90% rule. So as Marty mentioned, 117's already got capacity issues, but the plant may have capacity issues for a moratorium in the near future as well. The belt presses, those were put in at the same time the compost facility was put in. Those belt presses have a life expectancy of about 20 years. They're about $800,000 a piece. All things considered right now, those are probably going to have to get deferred and pushed back again because one of these was going to happen next year. So I may be able to roll it in to a project later on with the decommissioning of EQ Basins 3, 4, and 5 if we ever get to that point. I know Seymour Johnson Air Force Base is trying to find some money right now to get rid of those ponds, but I need about $10 million of plant upgrades prior to those ponds getting decommissioned. Replace the emergency generators. There's two large generators out there that all things considered, they're probably going to be about $650K each, and they'll be over 25 years old by the time we reach fiscal year 24. Have a better idea of capital improvement plan for both the water treatment plant and the water reclamation facility once we get this utility master plan underway. As an example for, the water treatment plant, let's just say it costs $5 per gallon to build a water treatment plant. If you build a 20 million gallon a day water treatment plant, that's $100 million right there. So right now, I think things are more like $10 per gallon. So we'll have a better evaluation once this utility master plan gets done with the life expectancy of the plant. As I mentioned, the WRF, we're running at 97.7% through these first 6 months of the year. And that kind of rolls into those last 3 projects, WRF expansion, a new water treatment plant, and the removal of those basins across the street. And that all adds up to the $200 million 10-year capital improvement plan that we've kind of put together internally. So that's the last slide. If you have any questions.
Mike, I have a question. With the hurricane season coming up now, what is the feasibility of renting a 3 or 4 month period
Of
one of the large generators?
I
don't know, but
typically between Cummings being close to us, Caterpillar's close to us, we could get one of those generators fairly quickly.
We get them quickly.
And I'm sure anything with that has to do with the Army and stuff located here, if we have to reach out to the county and stuff, we can get those to us.
We get them on the big high flatbeds.
Yeah.
And move them quickly.
Any questions? Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike, I'm sorry, Mike. Okay, new business. We have someone from Downtown Development.
Yeah, we have the director of the Downtown Development Department, Karen Funsick. He's going to talk about the hub rental information.
Hello.
Good evening. All right, I'm presenting tonight on the hub rental guidelines to confirm a fee structure for public use of the space. Felicia is back there to answer any questions about Parks and Rec and their role. She and I have worked closely in building these guidelines along with Adam Twist from the Paramount to make sure that they are cohesive with what other departments of the city are doing. As you'll recall, the hub is the city's new public park space downtown. It's located at 200 South Center Street in front of the Police and Fire Complex. It's 26,000 square feet of space that includes a permanent stage, restroom facilities, seating areas, lighted power pedestals for vendors, and the 30 by 20 foot stage, power supply, and the large grassy area make this a really desirable space for a variety of events. Of course, our first and foremost desire for the use of the space is public use, but we have had a lot of interest in renting the space over the last year. Up until this point, it's only been used for city events, so not for non-city private events because of COVID-19 concerns. But now that restrictions have relaxed, I think we should solidify, it's time to solidify a fee structure so that the city can begin renting the space out. We've received, like I said, several calls. We've got about 30 event organizers on standby waiting for a call back to let them know when the space is available, including 2 in August. So ideally, this is something that we can agree on quickly. That said, I've created a draft of guidelines that you guys have in front of you for your review and decision. Together, we researched several event spaces that are similar to ours across the state. Those include Greenville, Lexington, and Forest City. The reason those are similar is because they're adjacent to historic downtowns like ours, and they're also operated by local government. Of the 3, the most comparable space to ours would be Lexington's amphitheater in terms of size and amenities. So the fee structure that we've proposed is very similar to theirs. Couple of highlights to mention. We've divided users into 3 categories. So first tier is for-profit events. That does not include nonprofit, so events that charge admission or sell tickets. Tier 2 is private events with no admission fee. So if you think of a wedding, something where they wouldn't actually sell tickets or have an admission fee, but they're not a nonprofit. And then the third tier is nonprofit hosted events, regardless of whether they sell tickets or not. The rental fees include the use of the space, so that's the stage, the restrooms, the whole 9. Now, because it's a public park space, the restrooms will remain open to the public regardless. And it also includes the use of 1 power pedestal. Each additional pedestal can be reserved for an additional $25 a piece. We estimate that the power per pedestal is going to cost the city about $2 an hour. So that's where that $25 fee came from. So that said, the first tier, we're looking at $500 to rent the space. Second tier, $400. And the third tier is $300. Of course, those additional fees for the power pedestals could be included. So we determine those fees based on staff time for prep and then cleanup after the event with Parks and Rec. That, including power, roughly is about $220 per event. That could change based on how much power is used. Yes.
You may get to this, but is there a time limitation for each of these tiers?
So right now, the operating hours for the hub are 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. If you'll recall, the space that was there before, Cornerstone Commons, our office coordinated the rental of those, and we did the same thing. So they could use it as much as they wanted within that time frame.
So, okay, is the time frame 5 hours or all day? Or?
All day, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah. Occasionally we can
Normal
make an
operating
exception.
hours.
Yeah, operating hours. Occasionally we can make an exception, say like Pig in the Park, for example, if they wanted to use it. They have overnight cook teams. We can work with them to make those types of exceptions. Okay. So that's all I have. If you guys have any specific questions about the guidelines after you've looked through them, any of the rules, I'm happy to answer those, or Felicia can help me.
They clean it up. That's my only question.
Yes, they clean it up. That's a requirement. There is a $100 refundable damage deposit. So if we have any issues with those or with them not cleaning up or damaging the property, then we can keep those funds.
Okay.
Anyone have any questions?
I think the only question I have is with the cancellation and the inclement weather.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we can watch the weather, right? And we can anticipate it, but you know, it's Saturday and here comes the rain.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
So that's a good question, and I base this clause off of what Greenville does because it's an outdoor event space. We know that these issues can arise. But based on their policy, and they actually ask for 7 days notice. So, say there's a hurricane coming, and as long as you let them know in writing 7 days before to cancel, then they can do that. We came up with the 2-day time frame because that eliminates us having any additional staff time to prep the space. So regardless of whether we know that things could come up, Parks and Rec is going to be out there cutting the grass. They're going to be cleaning the bathrooms. So we're going to have that staff time worked in. So if there is a weather event coming and they know they could possibly have to cancel it, then we can work with them to reschedule as long as they let us know in advance the fees transfer and everything. The only time that we would keep a fee is if they cancel the event outright, and I've talked to other organizers and that's not something that typically happens, but if they do and they don't provide written notice in 14 days prior to the event, then we would keep their application and deposit. So it is a good question. Anybody else?
Any other questions? Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
So I take it council is good with those fees and those procedures? Or do you want to, you need to vote on that, or are we good to implement that?
Is everyone good with the rate schedule?
Okay.
Well, we'll make it official. I have a motion to approve the rate schedule and the rental criteria as provided by Aaron.
I have a question. The only variance with the cost where it says plus would be with the podium rental, the additional. I just want to make sure, for point of clarity, where it says plus, that would be if they wanted to add an additional outlet or something, a power source.
Right.
That would be the only.
Yep, so the maximum is that fee plus $125.
Okay.
So if they were to get all power pedestals, there is an additional fee for bathroom attendants. So if Parks and Rec has to provide a staff member that's on site, say it's a very large event and they need the bathroom turned over, that fee would be $15 an hour for the staff member during the event.
And what's the occupancy load for that?
It really depends on the type of use.
Okay.
So, if everyone is standing shoulder to shoulder, I
Right.
would say probably 1,500.
Okay.
So for larger events, if they potentially might bleed into the street, we'd probably recommend closing at least part of Center Street for that.
Okay.
But I would say 1,000 to 2,000 depending on type of use.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we should, include that number.
Okay.
Because, if I'm looking at this, I would have the same question, what's considered large?
Mm-hmm.
And if the additional cleaning fee is gonna include an attendant, I think I would like to see the verbiage reflect that, because right now it just kind of reads, if you got a large crowd, we're gonna charge you an additional $15 to clean.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
kind of wish that we could figure out a way
specific.
to be more specific
Okay.
with that piece, because you use the word attendant, and when I read
Yeah.
that, I didn't hear, I
Yeah,
didn't.
Is that the
number.
right terminology?
That's the term that we've used before. So for instance, what Aaron's referring to, I'll use our Brownville Sports Complex as an example. When we host large tournaments there, we have a staff, a bathroom attendant on hand during the duration of that tournament. Any type of regular play, like when we do our rec league, soccer games out there, games start at 6, end at 9. We have a staffer there during the day that cleans the bathroom, and then the staff there in the evening, they go in, make sure everything looks okay, locks up. But for those large events, those large tournaments, we literally have a bathroom attendant there from the start of the tournament to the end of the tournament, because there's so many people going in and out of the restroom during that time. So that's what we're talking about. If you do get those large events, like she's referring to, where it is going to cause for a portion or all of that section of Center Street to be closed, we're probably going to have a staff person there as well, because if you have 3,000 people, that's 3,000 people using that restroom. Not
Right.
at the same time, but it's going to be a constant in and out.
And I wouldn't say that would be the typical use. So this decision is usually the discretion of Felicia and myself based on the event type. So we would ask a lot of questions about how long the event would be, how many people you would include, or how many people you would think would attend. So I'm thinking of like the Poultry Festival or Freedom Fest, something like that would require that extra bathroom attendant. But for most of the uses of the space, they wouldn't require that extra fee.
Do you want to tie it to a street closure size event? Or a specific number that we can put in there so we can get this?
I don't think that's necessary, but we can certainly add that if needed. It's general.
Councilwoman's asking for,
Yeah.
so I don't know what.
I mean, you're the subject matter expert. I just said, I know if I'm just speaking from me, if I was searching events and I don't know what's considered large or not, so I don't know, because now I have to consider finances and all those things. So if it's a simple fix, then, let's consider it. If not, then, because I see that it's at the city's discretion with the $15 fee.
Right.
So I do
Right.
see that. I just, once he mentioned the large crowd question, I thought, well, maybe someone else would have that same.
Define large. One of the suggestions from Adam was to create a checklist that we would go through with the event organizer after they rent the space. So if you guys are comfortable with allowing us to do that, we can create that checklist, and in that checklist include language about what type of event would require something like that. If you're comfortable with that, that's something that we can do.
When is your first scheduled event?
Well, we haven't rented the space out yet, but I do have a renter that's on standby for August 14th.
So our next meeting is August 2nd, I believe. Could you put in the amended provisions and get this back to us for this August 2nd meeting
Sure. Yep.
for approval?
Yep.
Is it satisfactory?
I'm still saying, if you guys don't think that it's necessary, I mean, I'm just one person saying I think it's necessary.
But,
Yeah.
and I'm saying, I don't mean to cut you off, I understand what you're saying, but I know for me in particular, when I think of large events, all depends on what type of event it is. Because
Right.
someone can say, and that goes back to what Aaron was saying as far as developing the checklist, someone can say, well, we're expecting 5,000 people. Well, is that 5,000 people at one time or 5,000 people over the course of the day? Because you're going to have 300 people come at this time, 300 people come at this time, 300 people come at that time. If
Yeah.
it's those like blocks of 300, then I wouldn't say we'll need to staff it. It's just, our person going, checking up on, the restroom as we do with our parks anytime anyway. But if it's 5,000 people there from 11 to 5, not, over the course of the day, we're going to need someone there the entire time.
And I would say the need for today is to vote on the fee structure, not necessarily the guidelines. So I would recommend that you vote on the fee structure, make sure that you're comfortable with that, and then we can kind of tweak the application and guidelines as needed. That's how we've done it with the Cornerstone Commons application and how the Paramount has gone about their application. I think how Parks and Rec does it as well.
So
that's not necessarily a decision.
But
they
these other, there's a fee schedule for renting, but there are other costs there that are not in this document.
Right. Well, they're on there, but they're at our discretion. So if you're comfortable with that, then we can keep it like that. That's how we've done it in the past. So, if we needed any additional fees, like, for example, police, if they needed some off-duty police officers, in the special events permit application currently, it says that's at the police department's discretion. If there's an event that they determine needs to have that additional staff support, then they'll make that determination, but it's not written in black and white in the application, so it's at their discretion. So if you're comfortable with that, then we can just vote on the fee structure, and then the bathroom attendant and the, let's say police officer fee, those things can be decided at staff's discretion.
And what that means is, if I decided to rent the hub space, I'm gonna be well aware of those decisions that you make before rental?
Yes.
Before I say yes?
Yeah, we wouldn't spring it on you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
What does the council want to do? We want to,
Move we accept the fee structure as recommended by staff.
is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor of accepting the HUD rental fee schedule, raise your hand, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's Sam, let's wait till our clerk gets back, please. Okay, we had a consensus of accepting the fee schedule. Laura?
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Manager.
Is Mr. Aycock gonna be able to join us at all?
That's what we were just doing. He's trying to zoom in.
Let's,
He's
see.
trying to zoom in now.
Okay, so I think we'll hold for a second to see if he can join us before I hit the next topic on
Okay.
retention pay.
Thank you. That's what we're working on.
Mayor Pro Tem Ham.
Choose.
So to make sure that y'all knew, I do have 2 closed session items tonight.
Okay.
Okay. And it's litigation and personnel.
Litigation and personnel.
Yes, sir.
Are we good or not?
No. Well, he's cutting you on. Hang on 1 second. Okay, we see you and Miss Sherry.
Mr. Aycock, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Mr. Aycock, we are through the agenda down to new business, item D, retention and pay.
All right.
Okay. Would you like me to proceed, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, please.
I asked Chief West to outline a proposed pay changes to address compression and retention within the Goldsboro Police Department. I also asked the Public Utilities Director to budget a 5% pay increase for 23 operators in the FY21-22 budget to address water treatment plant, water reclamation facility, and compost facility operator retention issues. Last year, we lost 3 operators to retirement and 4 resigned for other opportunities. I concur with these 5% pay increases for our most significant retention concerns, and will approve them after presentation to council unless council directs otherwise. Chief West would like to request a 6.5% pay increase, and I'll let him come up and talk to that. But a lot of this is based on the county's cost of living increase of 3%, and their sheriff's department, as I understand it, is due to get a 10% increase in January. So that are direct competition locally, as well as other departments who are getting increased pay given the issues with policing. So, Chief, would you like to talk to that briefly?
Good evening, Mayor, Pro Tem, and council members. It's never fun to come up and ask for extra money and increase salaries, but I
Can't hear you very well, Chief. Can you put the mic?
definitely feel this is going to be a need. I'll go through a letter briefly that I sent to the city manager a couple weeks ago. Hopefully that'll answer any questions that you have. If not, obviously I'll follow up with any questions that you have. This letter is to outline efforts by the Goldsboro Police Department to address compression and retention within the department. Over the last 4 years, we've lost an average of 13 officers per year. Some of the attrition is due to retirement or disciplinary action. However, over 50% resign for undisclosed reasons, with most gaining employment at neighboring law enforcement agencies. The department currently has 22 vacancies, and I anticipate an increase to 25 in the coming month. After reviewing past efforts, I've determined that the best way to prevent experienced officers from resigning and still manage to attract qualified applicants is to comprehensively address salaries. The strategies outlined below, though individual in explanation, are a package deal, as excluding one or more measures will render the plan ineffective. Current compression affects 11 personnel in the department, 4 at the rank of captain and 7 at the rank of sergeant. Compression adjustments would be made to those positions respectively. After review of compensation of neighboring law enforcement agencies, budget constraints, and operational efficiency of our department, I determined that a 6.5% salary increase for sworn personnel in pay grades 72 through 80, which affects 77 employees, provides compensation incentive to current employees while making the starting salary more competitive. An adjustment made only to the starting salary would lead to additional compression and risk the retention of experienced officers. In the current budget, the 21-22 budget recommendation, I have 15 frozen positions. In order to ensure the above salary incentives come to fruition, I will freeze an additional 5 sworn positions, even limiting our operational capacity by 20 frozen positions. And then I'll require additional funding as outlined below. Although the manager requested a comparison between 5% incentive and 6.5 incentives, I do not recommend a 5% increase. The proposed 6.5 increase makes us more competitive with salary increases anticipated from neighboring law enforcement agencies and will allow for more comparable career progression incentives, which are needed to address retention of officers with between 1 and 7 years of experience. The plan addresses long-term staffing needs. Each time an officer resigns, it takes between 6 and 18 months to replace the position. Does not account for the loss of operational knowledge and the approximate $40,000 of onboarding costs or costs associated with training a new officer. If I freeze 5 additional positions, again, I'm currently budgeted at 15 frozen. If I freeze an additional 5, that will allow $235,000 of salary that will not be paid at that point. That can be put towards the pay incentive. To fix the compression for the 11 officers, that's going to require $40,000 approximately, for a total of $258,000 to do the 6.5%. Any questions or clarifications you need?
I have a question, Chief. Out of that percentage you gave of retention of people leaving, what percentage would you say live in the city limits of employees? Because I know when I started at the fire department years ago, there was a radius of 25 miles of living within the headquarters. I think we need to implement that proximity again, because when you don't have stock in the city you live in, you kind of transition somewhere else. And same with the fire department. You know, people come in and utilize the training, and if they're not signed to a contract of X amount of years of service, you're training people off the city's dime, but then people are, like said, going somewhere else. So do you think there's something we can put in the verbiage of the contract when they get hired, that they need to live within a proximity? Because when people live close to the city they serve, they have more, skin in the game.
Correct.
But when somebody lives in Wilson County and they're commuting to Goldsboro and they see an opportunity on the other side of Wilson that's closer to where they actually live, they're more apt to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel that in the future, if we can put in policy something where they need to be, I know that's not what you're looking for tonight,
Right.
but I think that needs to be put back into the contract, because we see the same turnover within the fire service. I mean, there's guys that just got hired the 2019 class that have already gone, that I spoke at their commencement virtually, but they're not even here because they've left to go somewhere else.
Right.
So I think that needs to be something that's addressed. moving
Yeah, I
forward.
definitely think there's an advantage and there's something to be said to have officers that live within the city limits. We try our best to recruit from within the city limits, but when we're trying to play catch it with our vacancies, where we're running 15 or 20 behind, if I just look at applications of individuals that live within the city, we're not seeing those applications. So then it's kind of a waiting game. Do I wait until more applications come in and still drag my vacancies along? But I do think that we get a better product if we can recruit from within our community and people that live inside the community, because like you said, they're a lot less likely to leave. Whether we can put something in a contract or make it obligation, that's going to be something that the city attorney is going to have to answer to. I can't. I would like to be able to do something. I know when we do the pre-hire,
Yes, sir.
we have the verbiage in there that they're to give me 2 to 4 years of service. If they leave before that, we try to recoup some of our monies. That's not always an easy task to get that money back, but there's something in there. But I do hear what you're saying, that yeah, we need to recruit more from within the community, because I think then you will get officers that will hang out longer, stay with us.
Chief, if I could add something, Councilmember Polak as well. When it comes to their cars, they can take them home if they live within the county. So that is an incentive for a lot of the police officers. And then when it comes to the costs of training for basic law enforcement, Chief's looking at some models that those costs we would potentially hire experienced officers rather than people who get the training and then leave after 2 years for something else. Chief, do you want to add any thoughts to that?
No, I mean, I'm not anti-rookie, I guess, inexperienced officers. I do think that's a benefit, and if we can get those, that's great. But I'm going to be honest with you. I've been pickpocketed for years, taking my experienced officers. I'm looking for experienced officers, and I'm going to start doing some pickpocketing myself. I hate to say it that way, but I can bring some experience in, but it's that salary issue. If I bring them in, officers aren't going to leave another agency and come to me for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 less. So if I can at least increase 6.5%, it'll increase my starting pay. That's not going to put me where my neighboring agencies are. It's going to put me pretty close to them, but then our career progression, the way it's structured, once you've been with us for 2 years and you receive the training that we've outlined for you to receive, then you move up from police officer to police officer 1, which comes with a 2% to a 3.5% pay increase. At that point in 2 years, now you're going to be at the entry level of the surrounding agencies. So you've got a little bit of a vested interest, you've got some experience, you're with me. Now I've put you, because that's where we're losing officers, between that 2 and 4 year mark. That's where they're getting out of the game and going to a neighborhood, or getting out of law enforcement altogether. So I'm just, I'm not, the county I think is doing 3% now and then 10% in January. Johnston County's at about 41. Smithfield, Selma's around 41. And we're currently at 36.6. And the compression issue, that's where years the council's been very generous to us with doing incentives for the new hires and increasing the starting pay, but then obviously your starting pay comes up, but the rest of the pay doesn't, and that's how we became compressed. I think a couple of years ago, they did address the compression for our corporals, and we're going to come back, and this will fix the compression for our sergeants and our captains. Then our compression issue should be solved, should be over with.
So I'm not saying that money, I don't think we should do something like this, so please don't misunderstand. I'm just saying I was listening to when you said how we lose officers and at what rate and why. You mentioned retirement, but you couldn't really specifically say that money was the issue, right? So I'm thinking, have we looked at other issues within our department? Have we looked at leadership? Have we looked at the culture of the actual department? Because money would be one reason why people would leave, but people also leave their jobs because of their boss or because of their coworkers and the culture and different things like that. So, and I don't know if this is a question for Catherine. I'm just looking at our financial situation as we're trying to get our head above water. Have we, I don't want to say it like I don't think this is important, because I do. I'm just saying, have we exhausted other options in terms of, you know, other retention methods outside of just salary, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I mean, we've looked at management, because some of the exit interviews that I'll get are sometimes different than what the exit interviews HR gets. So I do confer with HR to find out what our officers are saying when they do exit. So I'm getting you that side of the story. And I will tell you, it kind of runs a gamut. Some of it is for pay, some of it is the political climate, some of it is I just wanted to be in another part of the state. I just want a change of scenery. It could be supervision, the way they're supervised by some of these officers that are in place. So it kind of runs the gambit. So we listen to what HR tells us, I listen to what the officers and what the supervisors are telling us, so it's kind of a broad spectrum. But just here recently, with finding out that Johnston County was at a certain number and Smithfield, and now the county's going to a number, the attrition is picking up. And again, I went from probably 9, 12, 13, and now I'm up to 22, almost to 25. And again, this isn't to increase my overall budget. My budget that's been approved is what, 5.1 million is my salaries. This doesn't increase that at all. This is with me cutting an additional 5, that frees up that money to be able to put with this. And then I think I'm 63,000 is kind of a shortfall, but I anticipate to be able to recoup that through other attrition throughout the year to cover that. So I'm not asking for an increase in my budget.
Chief, we can also change that next year with the next budget. This is, so if we come ahead, then we can unfreeze those positions. Am I seeing that?
Then you gotta find the money for it.
Right.
And if we find money for it, then.
But the bottom line, right, supply and demand is we're already over 20 short. So to prevent that from getting worse, let's realign that funding. We just need to determine whether it would be at 5% or 6.5%.
I agree.
And patrol's the backbone of the department, and my concern is if I lose more than what I've lost, I'm going to have to start cutting services. And when I start cutting services, the first place that I'll probably go to is I'm going to go to the SROs. And that, because I've got to have patrol, I've got to have the day-to-day officers answering calls, it's going to be SROs. And then the next thing, if I've got to make further personnel cuts, then I'm going to end up going to community police services, which is one of the last places I want to go because it's community relations, community policing and stuff like that. But that's the least, and then it's going to be my warrant division, and then my gang unit. I'm going to have to. Patrol is going to be the last place that I will end up, or that I would cut services from.
Could you look at freezing a couple of more positions, because our budget, you know, we need to really take a look at our budget. And I know you say that doesn't, your budget has already been approved, but I have some concerns whenever we are hiring, and I know policemen are very important, but whenever we're hiring policemen, yet we're going up on taxes. So is there any way that could be an option, that you could freeze 8?
Freeze.
Yeah, additional 3. You said 5, right?
If I have to go in and freeze an additional 3 positions, then I'm gonna freeze my SRO positions. I'm gonna have to start with my SRO positions and freeze those. And the county should be able to handle the SROs in our schools because it's Wayne County schools, but I honestly think that the police department provides SROs. We do very well SROs to our schools inside the city. Not saying the county can't do it, not saying the deputies can't do it, but I just think for our kids in our community, in our schools, I think our officers do a better job. But if I've got to go back, if you're asking that I go back and freeze an additional 3 positions, I'm almost forced to look at my SROs and freeze those positions. I'll certainly look, but it's...
City manager, what was your recommendation? What was your recommendation?
My recommendation was to do the 5%, because that only costs $2,000 essentially, and you know that's easy to find in the budget that big. If you want to do 6.5%, then that's $63,000, and he'll probably have that in lapsed salaries too. But again, that's an addition, and I'm kind of aligning it with what we're doing for the Public Utilities Department, which is a 5% increase for their operators. Both departments are probably 20 to 25% shortfalls over the last year in personnel. So, but I get what Chief's saying. You know, it's a very difficult environment for police officers now. So, you all kind of need to determine what your level of support should be.
So Chief, I hear you. I hear you. If we were to do the 5%, it would help, right? It's not what you want, but it would help.
Right, it's not what I want, and again, the reason why I figured the 6.5% is gonna be our best bet is because then when they get to career progression at their 2-year mark, with that 3.5% to get them to PO1, now that puts them in line with the starting salaries around me to where they don't jump ship because they can go next door for more money. If I go with a 5%, then that 3.5 that hopefully I can get with the career progression, if I only do a 5% now, I won't quite hit the mark at starting salary for surrounding agencies, and I think that I will still lose some down the road.
Any questions? We've got the manager's recommendation of 5%, the chief's request for 6.5%. Heard a lot of discussion. Each side has presented their facts, statistics. Do we have a motion to?
Sounds like a trial.
Pardon?
It's like a trial. Each side has presented their case,
Yeah.
and so, but.
Did a great job, Chief.
Chief, I'm gonna go with you. We've done what we had. I make a motion, we go 6.5%.
Do we have a second?
And can I say one thing, and I probably shouldn't, but I will. In saying that the 3% or 3 additional positions, we are looking at streamlining certain parts of the department, and it's my hope in the future as we're pulling back some, because police don't need to be, we don't need to be involved in everything in the community, calls for service. So I'm budgeted for 108 sworn. If I can get by with 105 sworn, at some point in time, we can reevaluate and maybe we can streamline the department in certain areas. I'm just not there at this point.
That's authorized, not budgeted, right?
Anything else, Chief?
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we in discussion?
So we had a motion.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry.
I said, are we in discussion yet?
And it hasn't
Because I just had a
been
question.
No.
It hasn't
We
been
have a
seconded.
I
motion
made a motion, but.
for 6.5% raise.
There was,
Oh, okay.
Is
There's
there a
no
second?
second yet, okay.
Is there a second? There being no second, the motion dies. Is there a motion to?
I make a motion to go with the city manager's recommendation of 5%.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. I did 6.5.
Any further discussion? Councilman Aycock, when you vote, if you do, please announce yourself.
can I make a clarification? Would you like to hear from the Public Utilities Director as well, or do you want to handle one at a time? Because the Public Utilities Director, that is already budgeted in the budget. Just want to make sure you don't have any problems with doing it, given the retention problems we've had with public utilities. So I'd like to have both approved.
At the same time.
Yep.
No.
Or you can do it separate, however you want to do it.
We have a motion second. Let's take care of one item at a
Okay.
time, please.
Right.
All in favor of the 5% raise motion, raise your hand. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Aycock's
thank you.
a yes vote, right?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
I didn't say his name.
State your name, Mr. Aycock, that you're voting yes.
Gene Aycock, Councilman District 6. The vote was yes.
Thank you. Okay,
So Mike, would you like to add anything?
So, back in February at the budget retreat, I informed you all that in 4.5 years, I had 57% turnover. Trying to do succession planning, long-term planning for a water treatment plant, a water reclamation facility, that's very difficult and it's not good. In my industry, what we call it the silver tsunami that happened. We had a wave of retirements. We brought people on board, we trained them, and those individuals, just like police and fire, are leaving for more money at other organizations. I was kind of disappointed with the salary study last year. You know, my operators that are certified and work hard, I only had 6 individuals out of 37 get addressed from the salary survey last year, and I think for those individuals it was less than $1 an hour. I worked for over 6 months with the HR department, city manager's office, on almost $200,000 in salary incentives to try to reclassify employees over the last year, and that was ultimately one of the first things that got cut in March. As the manager noted, so in last fiscal year, it was 24% turnover. I had 4 leave for more salaries. I had 1 come back to take a lesser salary. I had 3 retire. I had a termination, and I had a resignation. I currently have 5 uncertified operators. One of those is a vacant position. I have 2 at the water plant and 3 over at the water reclamation facility. When we try to think of other morale things to keep people on board, my chief operator at the water plant is working 12-hour shift Saturday, and my ORC, who's the superintendent, is working a 12-hour shift on Sunday. When some of these individuals came on board 15, 20 years ago, they were working 1 and 4, 1 and 5 weekends. Now some are working back-to-back weekends. And although we're not forced into an overtime situation like the fire department, people want their time off and they're flexing their schedules, and we're able to do that. And that's one of the ways we're trying to work around some of our morale issues. But ultimately what we had proposed in the budget, with the loss of those 3 retirees, I had a $66,000 a year employee that I replaced with a $50,000 employee. I had a $48,000 employee that I replaced with a $33,000 employee. Now I have to train those people up and hope that they don't leave. And so ultimately I have 17 individuals right now that are operators at either the water treatment plant, the WRF, or the compost facility. I've got additional 5, so 17, 5 is 23, that aren't certified yet, but I did put 5% in there for them, hoping that they will get certified and they have an incentive to stay with us and not take an opportunity somewhere else. All that being said, 15 out of my 37 and a half people, nothing will be addressed with them. But that amounts to about $42,000 to cover those 23 employees. So what I'm asking for is the 5% for those 23 individuals or operators.
So did I understand you actually saved $40,000?
In salaries?
Yes.
We save much more than that.
Okay, all right. I didn't have all my figures on here,
Yes.
so I want to make sure.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. So in my salaries, in the proposed budget is certification increases to try, as individuals advance, to retain them. But for my lower level operators, I need something more than that. I mean, one of the individuals last August that was addressed in the salary survey, he got that money, which was, $1,200, and then left for $5,000 more to somewhere within 60 miles of us. So I need to address everyone across the board at some point.
Any questions? I believe, Ms. Salmon, that you recommend 5% as well?
Yes, sir. And so that's already in the budget. I asked Mike to plan for this, given our retention concerns. I just wanted to make you aware. So there's nothing you need to do here unless you disagree with that, and then we could save that amount of money, which totally is about what, Mike?
About $42,000.
So that's money already figured in the budget that we've already voted on, so nothing would need to come extra from tax dollars, no taxpayers.
Well,
You're shifting the
enterprise fund, water and sewer.
right. Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Next item, Ms. Salmon.
Yes, sir. So the next issue is a homeless board. I request to receive council direction and guidance on establishing a board for the review of Goldsboro's homelessness issues and potential solutions utilizing the American Rescue Plan. The city is set to get $908,000 from HUD and potentially other funds. I recommend council considering requesting a joint board with the county government and other subject matter experts to review and recommend proposals for council and potentially county board of commissioner decisions. think it would be important to include in such a board the Wayne County Department of Social Services, Health Department, other representatives from the county government as they may deem appropriate. Other community partners such as East Point, the Salvation Army may be helpful. We would need someone to chair the committee. The City Community Relations and Development Department could support the committee. It may also be appropriate to hire a contractor to assist the board in developing and presenting recommended solutions. If the council agrees with this recommendation, I request a motion and approval to stand up a homeless committee so staff can begin to coordinate this effort.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Could we not have some residents or some constituents on this committee?
Yes, whatever you would like to have on the committee, we can
I
support
mean,
that.
everybody that you named is really nice, but I think we should have some of our constituents on the committee, citizens.
Okay, I would develop an application process and bring that to you. In the end, the council would appoint whoever they want to this board. I think this board would, or this committee would recommend proposals to you. They would review them. They would say, we think, you know, this nonprofit's proposal is supportable, and we recommend you fund it for whatever degree of the funding that's available. It could be 2, it could be 1. It's just, or you could do it directly. I mean, you could hear all this information yourselves if you'd like. I just think establishing a committee of subject matter experts would be of value, and that we should involve the county because the county has social services, health department, other people who deal with this probably more consistently than the city does.
So, I'm not saying I'm not opposed to the board, but you listed a lot of entities that already do this, that are subject matter experts. So could we not find ways to support those organizations? And then when we talk about boards, you know, I can't help but be reminded that there was an opportunity brought to us to create a board on race relations, and we haven't done that yet. So I see, you know, we're ready to get this thing done and on the ground, but we have some other things too that we were trying to start and spearhead and whatever, and I don't want us to forget about those things because that's just as important as well. But I'm just wondering, with this here, it seems like it would be like a city board.
I just want to say this. I do think we need to have more of a collaborative effort with the county. I mean, as citizens of Goldsboro, we pay city and county taxes, I've said before. I think we need to have more discussions collaboratively, as I said, moving forward. But I do agree with both Ms. Jones, Councilwoman Jones and Councilman Matthews. We do need to have constituents from each district because homelessness is riddled throughout the city as well as the county, not just in one isolated district. And my district, as I tell you, I walk my dog and see things all types of day and night that the average person in certain districts might not see as it relates to homelessness, even to the extent of our policies with panhandling that we don't address. We say aggressive in our area. Some counties, no panhandling, I mean, some areas, no panhandling at all. And I hate to say it, Mr. Rice and I, we talk frequently, and I'm definitely an advocate for getting these people placed in housing. But it's sad when it's messing with, you know, economic status. People change their minds about going to certain stores because there's panhandling in front of their business. So we have to look at this as a trickle-down effect as well. But I think the county also, we need to sit at the table together because it's not just isolated within the city limits. It's in the county. And we do need to have representation from, I feel, each area. Maybe we can, you know, put that in the verbiage of our policy once we come up with this board. But it's sad. I mean, every other day I see a different person on the corner of Ash and Herman. Right there at the health department facility, which ironically is governed by the county. And there's there's people there every other day. I see a different face. So I definitely want to advocate for the homeless, and I do want to see more of a collaborative effort with us and the county, because it shouldn't just fall on our laps as a city board. So that's my 10 cents on it.
Ms. Jones, you have any comment?
No, I already said I agree with a lot of things that he said. I've
I'd just
already
like
said.
to say one thing, the county's got money too, and they need to be in this with us.
Yes.
I believe the city manager and the county manager have been talking about a collaborative effort. I'm not sure that it has gone to the commissioners level at this point.
I've just broached the subject with him, and that's why I brought it up here to see if what council wants to do.
Mr. Aycock, you have any comment?
Well, I'm probably one of the few districts, I don't see homelessness, but I know it downtown and in the areas, especially within 5 blocks of downtown, it's beginning to get worse. And, you know, we've got to come up with a solution to help these people, you know, to get off the street.
Okay, we're going to get just short of $1 million, 999 or 990 plus.
908,000.
Yeah, just short of $1 million, and that money is designated homeless support money, or homeless to be used for homeless actions. That's a lot of money that is going to be spent, given away. I don't mean that in a negative sense, but it's going to be allocated to the homeless issue. And I think that we need a team of people that, number one, has knowledge of the homeless situation in our city, and two, that are going to be able to look at agencies or organizations that will address this homeless issue and be able to do it in a equitable way so that the money is spent in a manner that's going to produce results. And I don't think the city council can do that.
I think some of these subject matter experts would be able to tell you if a proposal from a certain organization is supportable or not.
Right.
And that would help make the decisions.
I think we can approve, if necessary, some of the distribution of monies, but I think there are people with more expertise than us and certainly have more experience than us that can address the problems. So I speak for myself. I'm in favor of standing up a committee or commission, the design of it to be determined, but have a third-party issue committee, if you will, that would determine where these funds are going to be spent and how they're going to be spent. With that said, I'll entertain a motion to either we do or we don't have a commission.
I make a motion that we establish a board or commission to address homelessness across the county and city collaboratively.
I'll second it.
Mr. Aycock, second.
Just identify yourself, Mr. Aycock, each time that you speak, please. Just say your name, Mr. Aycock, each time that you vote or make a motion.
This is Gene Aycock, District 6. I vote that we establish a commission with the county.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. If there's any further discussion. All in favor of establishing a commission for to address homelessness and the distribution of the allocated ARP monies, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Is that Mr. Aycock speaking?
Yes.
Gene Aycock, District 6. Aye.
Okay.
Wait, just so we're clear, was that the initial motion? I thought Councilmember Polak's motion didn't sound like y'all motion sound different. You included the allocation of funds. He didn't initially do that.
No.
So we need to make that
Let me
clear.
remake the motion. The motion that was on the floor was to create a collaborative board amongst the city and the county to address homelessness. And then once Okay, that's my motion.
Okay. All right, we'll do it again then without my added comment.
That was
So we
just
have a motion,
secondary
is there a
motion,
second?
so- A second. Oh,
Okay.
Jean second.
Ms. Jones,
I second.
second. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of establishing the collaborative commission to address homelessness as specified by Councilman Polak, raise your hand. All opposed?
District 6, aye.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Aycock. Okay, at this time, we'll move to the consent agenda.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council.
Good evening.
See?
Good evening.
Tonight, we have received an offer to purchase city, county-owned property. The council must either accept or reject the offer, and if accepted, authorize staff to advertise for upset bids under General Statute 160A 266, 160A 269. We've received an offer on 412 East Walnut Street. The offer is Oliver Design Group, LLC. The offer amount is $3,210. The bid deposit is $160.50. The tax value is $6,210. The zoning is R9. The offer is at least 50% of the tax value of the property. The bid deposit of 5% has been received in the form of a cashier's check. And tonight, at this moment, I'm asking the council to either by motion accept or reject the offer on 412 East Walnut Street. And if accepted, you have a resolution to adopt in your consent agenda to authorize finance to advertise upset bids. So I just need either a motion to accept or reject the offer on 412 East Walnut Street, Mayor Pro Tem.
I make a motion to accept the bid for 412 East Walnut.
Is there a second?
Well, it's a consent agenda item.
We still need to accept or reject,
doing all of
because then
them,
the
yeah.
consent agenda is going to be yea or nay for the accept or
For
reject.
all of them.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of accepting the offer to purchase at 112 East Walnut Street, please raise your hand.
Gene Aycock, aye. District 6.
Ms. Jones, did you raise your hand?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Okay. Chief?
Good evening again.
Hey.
Item G on the consent agenda, Center Street Jam Concert Series temporary street closing. The City of Goldsboro's Downtown Development Department, in conjunction with the Downtown Goldsboro Development Corporation, looks forward to hosting the 20th Annual Center Street Jam Summer Concert Series. The Center Street Jam is a community favorite event, bringing crowds of 1,500 to 3,500 to enjoy live music, fellowship, and food from local vendors. As always, Center Street Jam concerts are free, family-friendly, and open to the public. The events will be hosted every other Thursday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Hub in the 200 block of South Center Street. Events dates are July 22nd, August 5th, August 19th, September 2nd, and September 17th, Friday. For the safety of event goers, the Downtown Development Department and DGDC are requesting the closure of additional lanes of South Center Street from Spruce to Chestnut, and a partial closure of East Chestnut from Center Street to the Chestnut Street PD parking lot entrances from 4:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. As with all downtown events, affected city departments will be contacted, and the following concerns are to be addressed. All intersections remain open for the police department traffic control. 14-foot fire lane is to be maintained to provide access for fire and emergency vehicles. All activities, change in plans, etc. will be coordinated with the police department, and the police and fire department, public works departments are to be involved in the logistical aspects of the event. By motion, grant the request, or recommendation, by motion, grant the request, temporary street closing of the northbound lanes of South Center Street from Spruce to Chestnut Street and a partial closure of East Chestnut Street from Center Street to the Chestnut Street PD parking lot entrance as stated above. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, thanks, Chief.
Okay. Good. Item H. Sprinkler Fund Days, temporary street closing. City of Goldsboro's Downtown Development Department, in partnership with the Goldsboro Fire Department, will host our 11th annual Sprinkler Fun Days, an event series providing supervised summer splash fun for all ages. As always, Sprinkler Fun Days are free, family-friendly, and open to the public. Events will be hosted every Thursday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. on South Center Street from July 15th to August 19th. Goldsboro Fire Department will set up and staff the event in the northbound lanes of South Center Street between Spruce and Chestnut. Downtown Development Department is requesting the closure of the northbound lane of South Center Street from Spruce to Chestnut Street from 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. As with all downtown events affected city departments will be contacted, and the following concerns are to be addressed. All intersections remain open for the police department traffic control. 14-foot fire line is to be maintained and provide access for fire and emergency vehicles. All activities, change in plans, etc. will be coordinated with the police department. Police and fire department are to be involved in the logistical aspects of the event. Recommendation by motion, grant the requested temporary closing of the northbound lane of South Center Street from Spruce to Chestnut as stated above. Any questions?
Okay, thank you.
I have item I and J. They're both similar. I'll start with I. The engineering department requested qualifications from several engineering firms, and city council approved those back in June. And then we requested the successful engineering firms provide us a cost for doing the preliminary engineering report and the environmental information documents I mentioned in the earlier presentation. This one itemized for the 2019 water improvements project. Wooten Company provided or is requesting to provide their services at a cost of $25,000, which is consistent with other times we've done this. We've reviewed the financing with the finance director. Last month, you approved a project fund for each one of these projects, so the monies are there. They're budgeted. There's $30,000 in each account. This proposal comes in at $25,000. It's recommended City Council by motion adopt the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with the Wooten Company pertaining to the 2019 water system improvements for an amount not to exceed $25,000. Any questions on that particular project? And the other one is very similar. We set up a project account, so the funding is there. Their proposal was $30,000. We recommend City Council by motion adopt the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with Withers Ravenel pertaining to Goldsboro, Little Big Cherry pump station relocation and improvement for an amount not to exceed $30,000.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We had the department monthly reports. Did anyone have any questions on the reports that were submitted?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment to Ms. Felicia Williams. I appreciate that chart that you included in your monthly report, because it really does help people see the need that came in and how we actually help those residents. So I appreciate that addition that you put in there. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other comments, motion to recess to 7 o'clock.
Make a motion recess till 7.
Any objections?
Can we do our closed session stuff?
That's up to y'all. It's up to him.
Yeah.
Closed session at the end.
Okay, at the end.
let's back up.
Okay.
We're gonna recess, then we have a motion to go into closed session, then we're going into closed session.
Back online.
Back online, sir?
Is the other person available now, online already?
Not yet. We gotta get back into open session, though. Closed session.
Hang on, Mr. Acock's asking about Zoom too, so give me just a
Just let
second.
him know. We're back into open session.
He needs to stay on, he needs to stay on right now.
Yeah, he needs down for a moment.
Okay.
He's gonna need to stay on time
Stay.
when we close in 7 minutes.
Please.
Mr. Broadway?
Okay.
So I got to get out.
Thank you, ma'am.
So we're back online. All right, Brad?
Are we on? We're on load?
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we're back online, Mayor Pro Tem Hanson, we just need to, that's okay, we still have to go back into open session.
Okay.
To make a motion to go into closed session.
Okay. All right, can I have a motion to go back into regular session from recess?
Make a motion to go back to the regular session.
Second.
All in favor? Raise your hand. Okay,
Gina, I got it.
we're in regular session now. Can I have a motion to go into closed session?
Make a motion, go into closed session.
Second.
For litigation and
For
personnel.
litigation and personnel matters.
Second.
All in favor? Raise your hand.
Gina, I got it.
Mr. Aycock, you need to stay online.
5 minutes.
Well, we're back in open sessions now. If you want to recess for minutes, you may do that.
Motion to recess until 7 o'clock.
Motion to recess to 7.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Gene, you saw way back on the screen. Yes.
call the Monday, July 12th, 2021 regular session of the Goldsboro City Council meeting to order. At this time, we'll have the invocation. Archbishop Slater, sir, will you lead us in the invocation? Please stand.
Good evening. Shall we pray? Our Father and our God, we thank you for this opportunity just to call on your name before business. Now, Father, these who the people have selected and chosen, God, to go before us, to represent us, we pray, Lord, that you touch them, touch their minds, touch their hearts, that they'll make decisions on our behalf with the recourse, God, of knowing what their job is. But ultimately, Lord, look upon this city. Bless us as we chose to do right. Bless us as in our going in and our coming out, God. Send your anointing, God, that helps the battle easier to do what we need to do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Slater. Join me in pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Ham,
Here.
Councilmember Jones,
Here.
Councilmember Broadway,
Here.
Councilmember Polak,
Present.
Councilmember Matthews,
Present.
Councilmember Aycock.
Here.
State your name.
Councilmember Aycock is joining us via Zoom tonight, so he will be participating.
Mr. Aycock, just remember, whenever you comment or vote, you just need to say, "Here, Gene Aycock."
All right.
Thank you, sir.
So the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have minutes of the recess session of June 14, 2021, minutes of the special meeting of June 18, 2021, and minutes of the work session and regular meeting of June 21. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I have some amendments.
Sorry?
I have some amendments.
Okay.
And I think, Ron, this is a question for you. The meeting on June 21st, when we were, Mayor Pro Tem asked for a motion for the resolution, the procedure of how we would fill the seat for mayor, accepting the resignation, and to adopt the agenda. He did not ask for those members who oppose, so I did not get a chance to vote for that. So here it says that I voted in the affirmative, which I did not. I was not given an option to cast a vote. So how do we change that?
When there is a no vote, then of course it counts as a yes if you're here. But we can make the amendment here, since you brought that to the council's attention, and just make the change to the minutes that you weren't given the opportunity to oppose, and would have opposed had you been given that opportunity.
Yes.
So just make a motion that the minutes be amended to reflect that.
Okay. So I would like to make a motion that the minutes reflect my opposition
Yes, to the resolution.
to the resolution.
That was passed on during the June 21st meeting.
So do you want me to go through that, through every item that we voted on that I was not given the opportunity to vote?
If you want to list each item if you've got each listed, just say these are the following items, and just ask and that be your motion, and ask that they be amended, given that you weren't given the opportunity to say no.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that the minutes be amended to reflect my opposal to the resolution, the procedure, and the adoption of the agenda of the June 21st meeting due to the fact that I was not given an opportunity to cast a vote.
We have a motion to amend the June 21 meeting minutes as stated by Councilwoman Matthews. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the amendment to the 21 June minutes, raise your hand, please. All opposed?
Gene Aycock,
Councilman Aycock voted affirmative.
Councilman Broadway voted negative. Just for information purposes, it does not change the outcome of the vote, so still a majority of the members voted affirmative of the motions that were made. Just for the record.
I just didn't want it on record that I was in approval because I was not.
Just on the bill.
Okay, so
Motion for the rest of the minutes, right?
with that, is there a motion to approve the minutes as stated with the amendments to the June 21 meeting?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes with the said amendments to the July 21st meeting.
June
June 21st, that's right.
Second.
Motion made and second, any discussion? All in favor of approval of the minutes of the recess meeting minutes of June 14th, 2021, the minutes of special meeting of June 18, 2021, and the minutes of the work session and regular meeting of June 21 as amended. Raise your hand.
Gene Aycock, aye.
Okay.
All opposed?
Count me, yeah.
Excuse me?
To ask all opposed?
Yeah. Anyone opposing? Raise your hand.
Councilman Broadway, did you oppose?
Voted no.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have no presentations, so we'll go into the public hearings. This time we're going to have public hearings, and I don't think it's, let me just state what they are. SU 721 King's Auto used car sales, and our planning department, Jennifer.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council.
Good evening.
Your first public hearing tonight is SU 721 Kings Auto. The property is located on the north side of East US Highway 70 between Cavalry Road and Norwood Avenue. The applicant is requesting a special use permit for the operation of a used auto sales lot located in the general business zoning district. According to the city's Unified Development Ordinance, used automobile sales is a permitted use within the general business zoning district only after the attainment of a special use permit approved by City Council. Currently, the applicant is seeking a variance for the property, subject property, by the Board of Adjustment, and that is due to the fact that the side setback requirement of 15 feet is not there. So the Board of Adjustment will hear that at their next meeting, and of course, the special use permit approval is subject to that variance. Previously, the site was approved as a sign fabrication business formerly known as Southern Signs Incorporated. Currently, the existing commercial buildings and lot are unoccupied. Approval criteria for used automobile sales are as follows. The minimum lot area is 15,000 square feet. The minimum lot frontage and width shall be 100 feet. No parking of used vehicles or customer vehicles shall be allowed within the required street yard landscape area. No vehicles for sale shall be parked within 20 feet of residentially zoned property, and all vehicle display areas shall be improved with an approved surface, curb and gutter in accordance with the city's UDO. The applicant has submitted a preliminary site plan which indicates compliance with all of the criteria that I just indicated. In addition, the site plan shows an existing one-story commercial building of approximately 2,400 square feet proposed for use as offices for automobile sales, record keeping, public restrooms, and storage. Another existing one-story commercial building is attached to the principal structure, consisting of roughly 1,000 square feet and formerly used as storage space. The applicant intends to convert attached storage building into an automobile service bay for customers of the business. Access to the site will be provided directly from NC State, our secondary road, number 1591, which is a service road, by a proposed 22-foot wide paved access drive. According to NCDOT officials, no roadway improvements are required for this site.
Parking for the site requires 1 space per employee and 5 customer spaces. A total of 7 paved parking spaces are proposed, including a handicapped accessible space. Interconnectivity has not been shown for the site. The owner-developer will be required to identify interconnectivity for the site should adjacent property directly east of the property be improved for commercial development in the future. City water and sewer are available to serve the subject property, and city engineering will require approval of drainage plans prior to issuance of any building permits. A portion of the property is located at the rear of the site is outside the city limits of Goldsboro. The owner of the property will be required to annex this portion of the property into the city limits since city utilities serve the site. A Type A 10-foot wide landscape buffer is required along the western property line. An existing 6-foot in height opaque chain link fence serves to buffer the property from existing commercial development directly west of the site. Existing vegetation at the rear of the property serves as the required Type C 20-foot wide landscape buffer yard, and city staff will ensure additional landscape plantings will be installed should any deficiencies exist after site improvements have been finalized. At this time, there is no action necessary, and the Planning Commission will have a recommendation for City Council at your August 2nd meeting. And here is a existing elevation of the subject property, and it's the southern sign. What was the southern sign commercial building? Any questions for staff?
This is a public hearing for SU 721 Kings Auto. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak? If not, we'll move to the next item.
Your next item is SU 821 Well Travel Beer. The subject property is located on the southwest corner of South Center Street and Chestnut Street. This is currently a place of entertainment with ABC permits, and the applicant is requesting to amend a previously issued conditional use permit to allow the operation of a place of entertainment with ABC permits. The amendment would allow the extension of the hours of operation. Currently, the existing hours are Tuesday through Thursday, 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., Friday through Saturday, 3 p.m. to 12 a.m., and Sundays, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. The applicant was granted a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a place of entertainment with ABC permits by the City Council December of 2015. The existing conditional use permit was amended and approved by City Council in May of 2017 to expand the operation for additional seating. The applicant is now requesting to extend the hours of operations on Fridays and Saturdays from 3 p.m. To 12 a.m. to 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. The applicant renovated approximately 1,600 square feet of existing two-story, roughly 5,000 square foot masonry brick building for craft beer sales and consumption. In 2017, the applicant renovated an additional 1,600 square feet of the first floor for additional seating and storage. The submitted floor plan shows seating for approximately 59 people, beverage shelving and display areas, bathrooms, and a bar. The applicant is only requesting to extend the hours of operation on Fridays and Saturdays with no other requests and/or improvements at this time. At this time, there's no action necessary, and the Planning Commission will have a recommendation for Council's meeting on August 2nd. This is a street elevation of the building on South Center Street. Any questions?
Question? Okay. This is a public hearing for SU 821 Well Travel Beer, amending the operating hours. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak? There being no one to speak, we'll move to the next item.
Your next item is Z721 MC Morgan and Associates. We are referring to this as Tiffany Garden Phase 2. The property is located on the west side of Thoroughfare Road between Central Heights Road and NC Railroad. The applicant's requesting a change of zone for a portion of the subject property from R16 to R6 conditional zoning, limiting the use to an 84-unit apartment complex. Surrounding zoning, to the north, you have R16, R12 conditional zoning, and R9. To the south, you have R16 and R12 residential. To the east, R16 and R9 residential. And to the west, R16 and R12 conditional zoning for residential. On April 1st of 2019, Goldsboro City Council accepted the recommendation of the Planning Commission and adopted an ordinance changing the zone for property directly north of the subject property for residential. At that time, it was R16 and R12 to residential R12 conditional zoning, limiting the use of the property for 84-unit apartment complex. City Council at their April 5th, 2021 meeting denied the applicant's request to rezone the subject property for the apartment complex. At their May 3rd, 2021 meeting, Council voted to rehear Tiffany Garden Phase 2 rezoning as they found there to be substantial change in the conditions and circumstances bearing on the application. Now, with the request of Council to rehear the rezoning request, developer is proposing the second phase of residential development consisting of 84 apartment units. The property currently is vacant, and the city's comprehensive land use plan recommends medium-density residential development. In addition, the plan recommends that higher densities should be encouraged since city water and sewer are available to serve the property. The submitted site plan indicates three-story apartment buildings containing a total of 84 units. In addition, a community building is also being proposed. Access to the site will be from Thoroughfare Road as well as Central Heights Road with the development or construction of Phase 1. Thoroughfare Road is a state maintained road, and NCDOT officials have been contacted and are requiring driveway permits, as well as with Phase 1 left and right turn lanes along Central Heights Road. A total of 176 parking spaces are required, and the site plan indicates 176 spaces. External city sidewalks are required for new development. However, the city's pedestrian facilities plan does not recommend sidewalks for this area. Frontage along Thoroughfare Road is approximately 460 feet. The developer will be required to install sidewalks or pay a fee in lieu in the amount of $8,280 to the city of Goldsboro. Interconnectivity has been shown west of the site as adjacent property is currently being developed for multifamily use. As indicated earlier, city water and sewer are available to serve the subject property, and city engineering will require approval of stormwater calculations and drainage plans prior to issuance of any permits. Street trees have been provided along Thoroughfare Road. A Type B 15-foot landscape buffer is required along all property lines, and vehicle surface area landscaping requirements must be met. Staff will work with the applicant to ensure landscape requirements are met per the requirements of the city's Unified Development Ordinance. Building elevations have been submitted and indicate the proposed buildings will be constructed of brick veneer and fiber cement shake siding. Roofing materials will be architectural shingles. The subject property is located outside the city limits, and since city utilities are located within 1,000 feet, the developer will be required to connect to city water and sewer as well as annex into the city limits. At this time, there is no action necessary, and the Planning Commission will have a recommendation for Council's meeting on August the 2nd. This is just street elevations from Thoroughfare Road. Any questions for staff?
Questions? Okay, this is a public hearing for rezoning of Z721 MC Morgan and Associates Tiffany Gardens. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come forward. Sir, state your name and address for the clerk, please.
Mark Morgan, MC Morgan and Associates, 2408 Lake Oak Court, High Point. Council, thank you. Thank you for revisiting this and giving me the opportunity to speak on this on behalf of Phase 2 of Tiffany Gardens. Jennifer did a great job of reiterating exactly what we're looking at doing. This is a phase 2. We are in the process internally with the city on phase 1 as far as the review of our plans. And so the consistency of what we're doing is already in place for what's needed for the phase 2. Again, the development itself is right now is 13 one-bedrooms, 35 two-bedrooms, and 36 three-bedrooms with a clubhouse amenities, computer workstations, office facilities for tenants. Every tenant has a outside storage unit associated with their development. On-site property management and maintenance is on the facility itself. The site itself is very visible to both Central Heights and Thoroughfare. It's also on the GWTA's bus route as well. Phase 1, we will actually put a permanent stop on phase 2 and access, or excuse me, on phase 1, where phase 2 will be accessible to that. I don't want to spend too much of your time on it. I do want to make sure and reiterate a couple of things related to the development and as far as the demand itself. I'm just going to read a couple of things on an executive summary of one of my market studies and market analysts that I did on this initial phase, or on phase 2. Everything that I'm going to tell you is associated with phase 2, not phase 1. Phase 1 is totally separate, so any numbers that I say just more than likely will reiterate the needs that I'm trying to, for the point that I'm trying to make, and that is, quote unquote, most rental developments across Goldsboro are near or full occupancy. The total of 25 developments that were surveyed in the market by the market analyst, the overall occupancy was 98.8% occupied. Most developments are maintaining a waiting list, and that's on phase 2, not 1. The total number, I've been doing this business for about 20 years throughout North Carolina, and outside of a metro county, like Wake, Mecklenburg, Guilford, the total demand number that I'm seeing, again, this is a third party who's bringing this to us, it's some of the largest numbers that I've seen as far as the demand. For the phase 2, it was almost 2,000 units for an 8-mile radius of where it was, and we're looking at 80 units of the second phase. Those numbers actually, again, I've been doing this about 20 years, and in a market of this size, a city, a population of this size, that's a pretty substantial number. I do want to stop for a minute. If you have any questions for me, or I can answer to anybody else that has any questions, I'd like to save a few minutes at the end. Any questions for me?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak on this subject? Anyone else? If not, we move to item E, street. Oops, sorry.
Alex Economy, 320 Longs Plant Farm Road. I own the property on Central Heights Road that's going to be the exit coming out of that garden. My main concern is they're going to elevate that property too high because it's already a low area, and they're going to elevate that property too high. I've already got some flooding on my property right there. If they elevate that property 2 or 3 feet, it's going to push a lot more water over onto my property. Now, the houses next door to me are center block houses that have concrete foundations, and I've seen water all the way up to them before, because of, so if they approve this development, I really need them to do some kind of drainage over there that's going to take care of that problem, because if it pushes it on my property, I'm on septic right now, and I will have problems, I guarantee you. So I just asked the council to look at this really good to see how much they're going to elevate this property so that it doesn't cause problems for me.
I'm sure the planning commission will address that as well, sir.
Okay, well, like I said, we've got flooding out there now, whenever we get 3 inches of rain or 4 inches, it'll start piling up out there. So we definitely need to make sure that drainage is taken care of, because it will ruin some of those houses on that side. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else here to speak on that subject? Anyone else? If not, we'll move to the next item, E, street name change for Poplar Street to Dr. H.E. McNair Street.
Your final public hearing item tonight is a street name change request. Is for Poplar Street to, or a section of Poplar Street to Dr. H.E. McNair Street. A petition to change the name of a section of Poplar Street to Dr. H.E. McNair Street has been submitted. The section of Poplar Street runs from Harris Street intersection northwards approximately 1,150 linear feet to its terminus. The petitioner has indicated that he wishes to change the name of the street in honor of the late Reverend Dr. Howard E. McNair, who was the pastor for 57 plus years of New Stony Hill United Holy Church, which directly abuts this section of Poplar Street and is located at 1003 Poplar Street. The city is authorized to change street names within the city limits according to provisions set forth in general statutes. While the statutes are very general in nature, the city follows the same procedures used by the county in renaming streets. The proposed name change has been sent to the county planning department to ensure that the name Dr. H.E. McNair Street would not result in any confusion as it relates to the provision of emergency services. The county planning director has indicated that the county does not have any objection to the street name change which has been proposed. City Fire has no issues with the request, and city engineering indicated the use of an individual's full name is typically discouraged, especially if the last name is available for use, suggesting the use of just McNair Street. A notice of public hearing was advertised in the newspaper for 2 consecutive weeks, and the street section was posted, as well as all adjacent owners were notified of the hearing by mail. At this time, there is no action necessary, and the Planning Commission will have a recommendation for council's meeting on August the 2nd.
Thank you. Any questions? Does anyone here wish to speak for or against the name change? Please come forward. Give your name to the clerk, please. Name and address.
Trevor Jackson. Greetings, council.
Greetings.
Truly it is an honor to stand before you and share in this cause. First, I would like to say thank you to Ms. Jennifer Collins and the Department of City of Goldsboro Planning Department and her staff. They have been phenomenal and impeccable in their actions and service in response to our initiative to get this street name change petition process completed. I also would like to acknowledge my district councilman, Taj Polak, for his work in our district and availing himself to make District 3 in the city of Goldsboro on the cutting edge of excellence. Today, council, it is with great honor and special privilege that we come to establish, celebrate, and commemorate the legacy of the distinguished gentleman in the greater Goldsboro and Wayne County community. For he has made and been a profound impact on the city, the community, and the nation that we all so love so much. Dr. Howard E. McNair has been a leader in this community for close to some 60 years. His leadership has propelled numerous lives and individuals from lives of destruction to productive citizens. His unique, eloquent, and persuasive leadership has oftentimes been applauded. Dr. Howard E. McNair has been and has made outstanding contributions to this society for the betterment of himself and not for the betterment of himself, but for the betterment of mankind. He has served the city of Goldsboro, the greater Wayne County, and the eastern region of North Carolina through unlimited opportunities to bless its constituents. Most importantly, his work and the impact and contributions of Dr. McNair has created an atmosphere that has become conducive for the success in the future of the community in which the New Stony Hill United Holiness Church resides. The evidence of his work shall permeate long after his life with the city and the community, recognizing the man, the myth, the legend, the late, great Dr. Howard E. McNair. We would like to say thank you. I appreciate you. I came up here, you immediately made a call. You spoke with some people, and I thank you for the opportunity. You even told me that you had to do some research to make sure that certain things were available, and you called me countless times, and I ran back up here when you called me. They were phenomenal. We thank you for all the support. This great giant here in Wayne County and in the city of Goldsboro has been paramount, and we would just like to honor him. We wanted to honor him and give him his flowers while he was alive, but he just recently passed away. I'm pretty sure you've seen the great article that was in the city of Goldsboro News August paper. He's a giant. He means a lot to a lot of people. I know people who in this community have gone on to go in the military, who were impacted by his influential speaking and encouragement in the community, and we would love to have the opportunity to resonate and continue to see his name listed upon that street, the extension, the popular street extension. We thank you for everything and your consideration greatly.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, I would suspect that Mr. McNair is looking down here with full appreciation of the eloquent comments you made about him. So, okay, there are no more items to discuss.
Councilmember Ham, we need to ask if there's anyone else who'd like to speak as well.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone else that would like to add their comments to Mr. McNair? Okay. There being none, we'll move to the public consent period. We have a lot of people here. I assume a lot of you want to speak. I want to remind you that we have a public speaking policy. I hope you are familiar with it. You'll be given opportunity to speak for 3 minutes at a time, and we'll go from there. Please come forward. State your name, please.
Good evening. Alicia Pierce, 806 South Taylor Street. Thank you. And good evening. I actually have 3 items from the work session that I just wanted to make comments about. The first one was, I think it was Councilman Polak and Councilwoman Matthews that was talking to the police chief about that retention. And I think they both had a great point in the fact that there should be some type of establishment to try to recruit individuals that live in this city. And I do think, and I agree with them, that there should be some consideration, maybe some investigation as to why we cannot retain people. I don't believe it's just money. I'm an educator, and we don't get paid a lot either. But as they said, if you live here, you have an impact. You want to be in that community. So even if you don't make high wages, you're willing to put in the time anyway. So I think we probably need to do some investigation. And I think it was Councilwoman Matthews said, we really need to consider the leadership, not the political leadership, but the leadership of the department, if there is something going on. So there may need to be some investigation. I do also want to make mention about the thing with the young ladies with the park and rec and the new place where they're going to rent that to people, and they were saying certain things is at their discretion. I kind of felt like when you say at their discretion, it depends on who the applicant is, and is there going to be some bias or discrimination in that discretion. So I do think, I agree that you guys need to have some little more details and not leave it to humans to determine how much the public should have to pay or who shouldn't have to pay. Should this group have to pay more and this group not? And that's our issue now. We have too many blind lines. Let's just make it clear. If this is what you're going to do, it don't matter who the group is. This is what you're going to pay, and this is what you're going to do, period. And that was a suggestion I have. And then my third one is, I would like to know, as a citizen, the language that the lawyer used about changing the voting amount from 4 to 3. Is there some type of document that proves that that is okay, that you guys change that voting for the new mayor, for if it happens to be a council person that gets in that role or want to be voted in, can you move it from 43? As a citizen, I'm asking, and if I need to write you guys, I will, but I want to see some legal documents showing that it's okay to change that voting from 43. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Lawrence will provide that information to you.
Well, if we could discuss that offline, Mayor Pro Tem,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yes,
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Next, anyone else like to speak? State your name, sir.
Good evening. It's Kaylon Williams. Just another concerned citizen of Goldsboro. I've come to y'all before about like the issue in West Haven. Basically, there's some extreme flooding going on in that area. You guys probably already know about, should already know about. It's still there, very prevalent, and very, very, very. I want to say it's a hazard at bare minimum. It's a soil, it's an eyesore in the neighborhood, and most importantly, it's in the way as far as the families go. Because you know you got mothers out there, you got older women, you got fathers out there, people out there with 5, 6 kids, 2, 3 kids, and they gotta somehow figure out how to get from their house, from all the way down the block to their house in the pouring rain because the whole parking lot is extremely flooded. And I just feel like this has been going on for like 3, 4 years now. And I know I've been talking to y'all about this for about at least 2 now. So I would just like to see some kind of, effort to actually fix the situation because it's still going on. And my kids happen to stay right in front of it. And God knows how I feel if anything happens to them because of a flooding in an area where there shouldn't be any water at. You know what I mean? So with that being said, I would definitely appreciate it if you guys took the time to actually get the state, because apparently it's something that's going on with the state and the railroad or however that goes. I've talked to a couple people that kind of came out and looked into it, but it hasn't been any action done outside of that. So yeah, I definitely need that to be handled.
Have you spoken to Mr. Goodson, Mr. Anthony Goodson?
I believe I have, I have, the most I'm getting is kind of a runaround thing. It's just, oh yeah, well, we got to talk to the state because it's state property or state territory or whatever, however that goes. And that's not good enough because God forbid again, something happens to my kid or anybody else's kid, I'm not trying to hear this state property as an excuse. You feel what I'm saying? So,
and it's not cutting them off, but to address, it is being passed like ping pong because I've spoken with Mr. Goodson myself. It's something like you said with the railroad, the state, but listen to what he's saying. I have a granddaughter as well, and that is definitely a hazard. It rains 5 or 10 minutes, downpour today. I can assure you, it's probably about 8 inches of water. But like I said, I've addressed it. But like he said, but you don't need a fatality or something to take place before it's looked at. So I agree with him.
Second
so
time you've been here.
It's probably like 3 or 4.
But we definitely need an answer because, like I said, with the hurricane season and when I was at the fire department, we did a lot of rescues in that area. The topography of that area and in the black communities on that side of town is just lower anyway. That's why a lot of people in Little Washington, which is a neighboring community, were flooded out due to the topography of that area. It's in the lower lying part. But I think we do need to aggressively get on that with somebody. But I have spoken with Housing Authority, but
I've seen plenty of families walking, treading through water. You know what I mean? Who knows if it's their last pair of shoes or not? You know what I mean? Things of that nature. It's we're not really thinking like that, and I feel like if we can go do a lot of other things in town, you know what I mean, and get those done and finalized, and I feel like that should be at least top of priority.
Sir, would you give the clerk your phone number? Mr. Salmon, we need to talk about this offline.
Okay.
We'll get back to you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you.
Come on up, sir.
Put your name up there too for me.
My name is
Hold on just a second, sir. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Demos Martin. I come in the name of Jesus. God sent me to the city council in the city of Goldsboro. God is not pleased
You're using your positions. When I say this, not talking just to city council. We're using our position to practice racism. God saying, come together as a whole and repent for your sins. God has moved people out of position for people to come into a position to make right decisions. There's a spirit of Jezebel that has launched an attack over the city of Goldsboro. If you don't come together in the church, don't get in their right place, Jezebel will take over the city of Goldsboro. And the only way you can destroy Jezebel is through fasting and praying. God has sent many people here, but they refuse to tell you to repent. The new people, God sent you here, not to cause division, but to come together. The attack that Jezebel has released is against the city manager. But God said it won't prosper none. Stand, you have been given the authority. You have already been through the training. Stand and walk in the authority that God has given you. You have not been sent here by coincidence. You have been sent here to bring Goldsboro back up to where it's supposed to be. No disrespect to your mayor. He has been warned. There was a word spoken over him, and he refused to yield to the word. Now, each and every one of you, it's not about color. It's about the people. Stop fighting one another. Come together. And the only way you can come together, if you don't know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you have the opportunity to repent and get your heart right. You was voted in by the council. You was brought in by God. The people voted you in. God allowed y'all to sit in these seats. Now it's time to do what you need to do in Christ Jesus. Church, come together. Come out of your carnal mind and stand and fight a good fight of faith like never before, because the devil is busy. I pray that y'all can receive that. I have scriptures for you if you want to write them down. These are the scriptures that God has given me. If you don't mind, write them down. Everybody. The first scripture, this deals with leadership. Isaiah, 1st chapter, 3 and 4. Isaiah, the 10th chapter. James, 3, 13 and 18. James, 4, 1 through 12. Galatians, 5, 13 through 26. Galatians, 6, 1 through 10. I pray that y'all can receive this. Y'all be blessed.
Amen.
Amen, brother.
Thank you.
Amen.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening.
My name is Rose Dudley. I'm new to the area of North Carolina. I moved here from Las Vegas, Nevada. I got here in May. I found a job, and I also found a place. And the place that I found was at Day Point. 905 Day Circle is where I reside. That place is a beautiful place if they keep it up. And where I'm going with this is I have a lot of complaints because they are renovating our neighborhood. And the way that they are doing us, I don't think is fair. The workers come in at 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock. The residents have to be out of their unit. They supply 2 community rooms and a rent office for these families to go in and sit until 8 to 5 if they don't have anywhere to go. My problem with that is you have up to 5 to 6 families in this one area to sit. COVID is still alive. You have children and adults in this one place. If you work overnight, you have nowhere to stay, to sleep, and get dressed, and be comfortable. Me, myself, I work different shifts. I work 3 o'clock in the evening, sometimes I work 5 in the evening. So for me to get out of my apartment, for you to do renovation from 8 to 5, where am I supposed to go get dressed at to go to work at 3 o'clock in the evening? If I'm in a community room with 3, 4, 5, 6 family members, they shut off the bedrooms, and the only place that you could sit at is in one big room with all this family. So again, a person that worked night shift, where are they supposed to sleep? When I first moved in this complex 3 months ago, when I signed my lease, they stated to me that they was going to do renovation and they was going to relocate us into a facility, a hotel for us to stay. Opposed to doing that, they give them a $500 gift card as accommodation. A $500 gift card cannot get you in a hotel for a whole month to stay. So what am I supposed to do with a $500 gift card? Again, I'm in a 2-bedroom, so I don't get the $500 gift card. I get only $400. Even though I work, what do I supposed to do with a $400 gift card? And then I have plenty of names of other people that have complained in that complex. They come in your apartment, they work on your apartment, they do a little bit here, they do a little bit there. The worker does not clean up when they leave. Okay, so if I come home and I'm to clean up, if I have a little child, where that child supposed to be at while I go in there and clean up that dust and stuff that's on the floor, the wires that's hanging from the wall that they have not finished at, the doors around the ceiling that they put up have holes in them. People could look from the outside, bugs could come from the outside. What are we supposed to do? I don't think that's fair to us. And because we live in a subsidized apartment complex, don't mean that you have to treat us that way. We are still human beings.
That's right.
The same complex in a different location, they are given a housing to go into, hotel. So what about 905 Goldsboro? We don't deserve the same thing? Because a lot of people there don't work, they live for free. We're still human beings. You've got other people out there that do work, such as I. Even though I live in a subsidized place, I'm speaking for the other people that are too scared to come, because someone said, if we go down there and speak on this, we may get retaliated. And I asked them, retaliated how? You are still a human being, you have a voice. You can't be heard if you just complain among each other. So my question was today, because it's getting close to my movement, which is August the 6th, we have no one to help us move. There's plenty of senior citizens out there. There are plenty of women's. There are men's workers around there, and they stand there and watch us load boxes in our cars, take them to our house where we have to pack everything up, put it in the middle of the floor, and they work around the place. And at that time, they are breaking people's furniture, they're breaking stuff in your house, and they said they cannot replace it. They want you to go out to buy these things, give them a receipt, I assume, and then they're going to replace it. If you're only giving me a $500 gift certificate, I'm in a subsidized place where I don't pay rent, how am I going to replace the stuff that your workers are breaking? I don't think that's fair to us.
Ma'am, excuse me, when they applied to, or when they came to us to start this project, we made it very clear to them about the accommodations and how you or people like yourself would be treated. And that was a topic of discussion. I'm very disappointed with what you're telling me. What I would like to do is have our city manager contact the housing authority or the owners of the organization and get them and the construction superintendent in here for a meeting that we can talk about these issues.
I thank you. And another thing that I witnessed since I've been there, there have not been a community meeting to even tell us how this project is going to keep going. You hear it from this person, you hear it from this person, and it's never the same answer. So me here today, being I'm coming up on August the 6th, I need to see if they could make some kind of change and some accommodation for these people that's living out here now.
We will follow up on this, I can assure you. And give the clerk your phone number that we can.
And the signature of some of the residents that I have out there, because I have over 15. I had just started before we left here to get the signatures. I plan on getting more signatures, if that would help. Because I really would like to see some changes, because I am a working citizen in the state of North Carolina, and I like it here. I hate to have to move back to Las Vegas.
Mr. Sam.
Thank you.
Mr. Sam, Mr. Sam, is this the same firm that's handling Jefferson Court? Because
Yes, sir.
they're having, my mom lives in that area on that side, but they're having similar issues on that side as well.
Well, I heard Jefferson Court was being accommodated in hotels.
Well, the woman I talked to about 2 weeks ago, she's had a pod in her yard for about two or 3 weeks. I don't know what their turnaround is with accommodating, but so if they're the same firm, and not just from that standpoint, from a service call standpoint, I think Mr. Ham spoke on. As a fireman, we sometimes wait 30, 40 minutes for the local housing authority. These people are subcontracted, I want to say, out of Burlington. So that's also going to be an issue moving forward. I had an issue with. That's why I was in opposition of them doing this. But hopefully we'll get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, and with the pods,
ASAP.
they only have 7 pods out there so far.
Yes, ma'am.
No more have came out there.
Okay.
I think a young lady had spoke with them about us sharing a pod. That went away. Okay, so now we don't have to share a pod. When are you gonna put the other pods out there for the other residents to put their items in?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know we're gonna get the city manager to follow up, but didn't they say that there would be no movement from our residents?
That's what
They would move around
they
them,
said
right?
They would move them around and,
Yes.
you know,
That's what I
2 at a time, I think they said.
They're moving them here to there.
If I may, I have spoken to some of the residents, I'm sorry, Ms. Sylvia. So I have been contacted by some of the residents that are here tonight, and so what I've explained to them, they understand that we don't have any authority over it,
Right.
it's by
That's
this
right.
management.
That's right.
We don't have any authority over this company, they're doing the work, so what we have done is reached out to the project manager
Right.
of the company, and like she said, we have got some good response coming from us. So I let her know each time a citizen has come here and what the issues are. So I spoke to these young ladies when they were here earlier and asked them to contact me back tomorrow morning, and then I will reach out again. But I still encourage them to come in and voice their concerns.
You're absolutely right. We don't have any authority over them, but they made not so much a promise, but certainly an understanding of how they would address the relocation of tenants as they made their way through the renovation process. And I think we need to call them on that.
I will follow up first thing tomorrow morning.
But we need a face-to-face meeting, not just a phone call.
I'll arrange for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Felicia.
Sylvia Barnes, and I just would like to come forth and to address Mr. Taj, Councilman Taj, about the situation out at Jefferson Court. I have been contacted by them also trying to get some help, even though, like you said, those apartments are not a part of the city of Goldsboro housing. They are separate. They have their own company, their own contractor, and their own everything, which does not mean that they should not be treated as a human being. But I will work to do the best that I can, and I'm glad to know that you are working also, and maybe we can help one another.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey,
Good.
I'm speaking on behalf.
State your name, please.
I'm sorry, Shamika Ross. I live at Day Court. I'm coming here because I'm one of the ones that complain about the pods. The reason why I complain about the pods is because we have a lot of bed bug outbreaks. They're supposed to do 1 or 2 units at a time. They doing the 1, 2, 3, 4, and they just start on the 5. I have 3 children, and my daughter have an emotional support dog. They gave me $500. I had to pay $4.95 for my dog to go in shelter and boarding alone, just for them to be out the house. My kids, they made it great, but I put them in summer school just to get out the house. But they get out at 1:30, 2 o'clock. So for the next 3 hours, they outside. I do side jobs here and there. So if I'm not at work, I have to sit outside. I have 3 asthmatic daughters, and one of them is a ADHD. All day we're outside. When I go in my house, I can't cook. I have sawdust, paint, everything. They just broke my king size bed. I threw a bunk bed away because they put ceiling fans up and it was so high. So my daughters can't sleep on the bunk beds. But then they broke my master bed today. They saying we can't get compensated for anything they break until after the renovation is over. And we have to purchase the same thing again and show receipts of how much it costs. That's not our fault. They told us that we would come back to a fully functional unit every day at 5 o'clock. There's no way. There's no way possible. I have pictures, I have videotapes, and everything. I'm so uncomfortable in this house. It don't make no sense. It's a hazard. When they come, sometimes they don't leave at 5 o'clock. They still outside, out there working right now on the roofs, right now, as we speak, right now. The ovens and the refrigerators they brought out our houses, the old ones, they stuck them in a breezeway. They still sitting in a breezeway right now. The shingles from the buildings is falling off. That they repairing. There's no fence around nothing. It's kids running around here every day, all day. They can get hurt. My daughter already stepped on a nail, but I didn't report it. It's a hazard. Every time we go to them, they don't know nothing in the rental office. But they tell us that the people that's contracting, the rental office people tell us, oh, it's out our hands. We don't have nothing to say. That we just doing what they tell us to do. We got to go to the contractors. I don't understand how somebody can come in and move us out of our home and go and dictate how we live. We have to live there every day. I'm from Washington, D.C. I've been in my apartment 11 years. I had mold around my tub. The construction people told me, you have to go to the rental office. They deal with that. I come home, they scrape the mold from around the tub. Jefferson Court got new tubs. They said we don't get them. It's sad.
Thank you.
And that I know everybody say that we live in the jungle. That's what it look like right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, you've done it twice.
Okay, one more time. Can I approach real fast? I want to show y'all something tonight. So this is about the day circle. You see the light? That's the door. That's how they left the door open. You know what I'm saying? Like basically, it's a crack in between the door. You know what I'm saying? And the actual movement. So at any point in time, bugs coming in. Flying in this summertime, flies in there, spiders coming in, kids all around, you know what I'm saying? Ultimately, and
Excuse me, Mr. Williams, I would like to see it as
I'm
well.
sorry, I apologize, but love my fault.
I got more of my phone pictures.
Yeah, facts. That's just just a quick picture. I wish I would have put it on the screen. I wasn't thinking of bringing it today, but I just took this picture yesterday. This was yesterday. They came in today ultimately so that they could continue to do this. What they're doing is basically they're moving from the front to the back. Now, the first time I asked them about it, I stayed in Day Circle, 1604 Day Circle. You know what I'm saying? The first time I asked them about it, I said, well, what's the plan? What are you guys planning on doing as far as getting the tenants in and out? Are you guys gonna house us? Are you guys gonna kind of send us to a room, a hotel? What are you guys gonna do? They said, nah, that's not in our budget. So y'all worried about spending money versus the lives and well-being of these citizens? Word? Okay, cool, that's a straight one, right? All right, so now I'm like, well, what are y'all gonna do to, like, can y'all at least fix maybe 2-3 apartments and then move somebody into those and then go fix theirs? And then fix 2, 3, 4 more apartments, and then move somebody into those, and then keep the same thing going? Because that would definitely, undoubtedly get people from, you don't have to worry about pods. You know what I mean? First and foremost, as a human being, I just feel like most people, this is bare minimal stuff that we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? This is bare minimal stuff like rights, like private ownership have nothing to do with, we still pay taxes in the city. You see what I'm saying? Like, we still taxpayers in the city. So, and hazard wise, that's just, it blows my mind to see that the community really is not only kind of putting up with it, it's like, that's just what we're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's beyond me. So for us to be here right now, they really concerned. It's not, I just told y'all, I've been talking to y'all about that stuff going on in West Haven for 2 years now, at least. I don't expect this to be like swept under the rug, you feel what I'm saying? Because I have 6 children, you know what I mean? A 4-bedroom apartment inside of Day Circle. If they have to come in, I don't want to expect that you can't chill because they got sawdust everywhere. No, those are not livable. That's going against our rights as human beings. You feel what I'm saying? That's not humane. That's inhumane. What they're doing, and I feel like somebody have to stop it. So I appreciate y'all taking the time to listen, and I understand that y'all said that y'all gonna get them in here to have a meeting. But I know these are things that we need to be turned around as soon as possible, like this weekend, next weekend type of thing, because like this is really families that really have to sit outside all day. You know what I mean? Like you got a night job, you can't get no sleep, you gotta go to work sleepy. You got kids, they can't get no real rest. It's hot outside. The peak of the day is during these hours. The peak of the heat of the day is during these hours. And y'all got them sitting outside, or you want them to go play and go sit in one apartment to fit 5 families in?
Okay,
Everybody
sir.
got a key to come in?
We got the message.
Facts. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Anyone else? If there's no one else to speak, I'll close this public comment period. This time we'll move to the consent agenda. Could I have a motion to accept the consent agenda, please?
Items F through K are presented for council approval.
Items F through K.
Make a motion to accept consent agenda.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of accepting the consent agenda, please raise your right hand.
Roll call.
Roll
I'm
call.
sorry, roll call. Roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Ham?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Broadway?
Yes.
Councilmember Polak?
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Councilmember Aycock?
I think he's on.
I heard him. Aye.
Just repeat your name again, Mr. Aycock, please.
Gene Aycock.
Thank you.
Okay, the consent agenda is passed. Next item, items requiring individual action. We have item Z521, Anita Yusuf, south side of East Street between Barrow Court and Mallory Street.
Give me just a second to go through a few. As Mayor Pro Tem indicated, it's Z521. The property is located on the south side of East Ash Street between Barrow Court and Malloy Street. The applicant recently acquired the subject property, which is currently zoned for residential use. The applicant's now requesting a change of zone for the subject property from R16 to Office and Institutional 1 for commercial development purposes. Surrounding zoning, to the north you have general business, to the south residential R6, to the east neighborhood business, and to the west office and institutional. The subject property has been used for residential purposes and consists of one unoccupied single-family dwelling of approximately 1,000 square feet. The city's comprehensive land use plan recommends office and institutional development for the property, which is consistent with other properties in the area. City water and sewer utilities are available to serve this property, and at the public hearing held on June 21st, no one appeared to speak for or against the request. The Planning Commission at their meeting held on June 28th recommended approval for the change of zone request from R16 to Office and Institutional 1, finding the request consistent with the Goldsboro's comprehensive land use plan. It is recommended by motion accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and find the request consistent with the city's adoptive comprehensive land use plan. find it reasonable and in the public's interest because the zoning is compatible with adjacent properties within the surrounding area, and adopt an ordinance changing the zoning of the property from R16 to Office and Institutional 1.
Any questions? Okay, this is a item requiring individual action, so do I have a motion to approve or accept or disapprove?
I do have one question. What's the closest house residential to this property that would be affected? How many feet would you guesstimate as far as, and what business are they talking
Closest
about?
house, there's several salons up and down the street in this section of, this is Ash Street Extension. As far as an actual house that is being used for residential purposes, I don't know their but they've basically all been rezoned to office and institutional and are being used for just kind of office type, very soft office type uses.
So this is kind of up there near Back to Al's, the little bar. They used to be on Ash Street Extension, kind of close to Heroes.
Further down towards
Further down
Oak Forest.
towards,
Yes, sir.
I know exactly where you are. Okay. I got you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve or disapprove the request?
Motion to approve item Z 5-21, Anita, you said.
Is there a second?
Second.
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 Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the Z 521, please raise your hand. Excuse me, there's a roll call. Excuse me, roll call. Roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Ham?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes, I heard you.
Councilmember Broadway?
Yes.
Councilmember Polak?
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Councilmember Aycock?
Tina Doc, yes.
Okay, the motion is, we had a consensus there, so there are no opposition. Next item.
Your next item is Z621. This is FSC LLC, and it's an asphalt plant. The property is located on the north side of West US 70 Highway between Perkins Mill Road and Springwood Drive. The applicant's requesting a change in zone for the subject property from general business zoning district to general industry conditional zoning. It would limit the use of the property to an asphalt plant. Surrounding zoning: to the north you have general industry and general business. To the south, residential R12, R16, and office and institutional. And to the east and west you have general business. In 2007, City Council approved an ordinance to rezone property located directly north of the property from general business and residential R28 to general industry I2. And that was for a concrete plant. And although the land was not totally compliant with the comprehensive land use plan, the proposal was considered compatible with the existing zoning patterns in the area. In 2007, the request for the conditional use permit to allow the construction of that concrete plant was approved with the following modifications. Minimum lot frontage requirement from 50 feet to 0 feet, minimum or a modification of the minimum distance requirement from residentially zoned or developed property from 1,000 feet to 920 feet and 0 feet. And lastly, the required street trees and sidewalk installation for the concrete plant was deferred by City Council. At that time, the owner would be subject to install those trees and sidewalks once this subject property was developed or sold in the future. So currently the subject property is vacant, and the city's comprehensive land use plan recommends medium density residential development. The applicant has submitted a site-specific plan for the conditional zoning request to limit the use of the property to the asphalt plant. It does indicate that access is provided by a private 50-foot wide paved asphalt ingress, egress, regress, and utility easement. 3 proposed access drives are shown along the easement, providing an entrance and exit for employees, customers of the site, and the commercial trucking that's associated with the asphalt production. Since the property has no frontage along US Highway 70, a modification will be necessary. There's a total of 10 parking spaces that are required, and they have been provided on the site plan. As indicated earlier, sidewalks are required with this development. They'll either be required to be installed, or they'll have to pay the fee in lieu of $13,158, and that's based on approximately 730 feet of road frontage along Highway 70. The subject property is located within the city's 1 mile ETJ. City water and sewer are not available. Water will be provided by Wayne County Fork Township, and sewer will be provided by an on-site sewage disposal or pump system. Street trees have been shown along the western property line, where an existing 60-foot private and paved utility easement provides access to the property. A required type A 10-foot wide landscape buffer is shown along the northern property line, and a 15-foot wide landscape buffer is required along the eastern property line. However, due to 2 existing natural gas utility easements along that eastern property line, the applicant is requesting a modification of the type A buffer yard requirement. Asphalt manufacturing is classified as a community-sensitive use in the general industry zoning district. As such, the city's UDO requires that the entire area of the site be enclosed by a 6-foot high opaque fence set back 100 feet from any public right-of-way. The applicant is proposing an 8-foot in height opaque fence surrounding the proposed asphalt plant and is in accordance with city standards. In addition, the city's UDO requires the proposed asphalt plant be located at a minimum of 1,000 feet from any residentially zoned or developed property. There is a portion of this property to be used by the asphalt plant that is approximately 450 feet from the property zoned R12 to the east, and the northernmost portion of this property proposed for outdoor aggregate storage is directly adjacent to property zoned R12. So modification is necessary from 1,000 feet to 0 feet. At the public hearing held on June 21st, the attorney representing the applicant, the vice president of the applicant, and attorney representing the property owners appeared to speak in favor of the request. No one appeared to speak in opposition. Planning Commission at their meeting held on June 28th recommended approval of the requested change of zone of the subject property from general business to I-2 conditional zoning, limiting the use to an asphalt pavement or asphalt plant with the condition of providing additional landscaping along Highway 70 to provide additional screening in the future. Although not consistent with the City of Goldsboro's comprehensive land use plan, the Planning Commission's recommendation found the proposed use to be compatible with adjacent properties within the surrounding area. Just to repeat the modifications that were requested, that's a modification of road frontage along an improved public street of at least 50 feet, modification of the type A landscape buffer along the eastern property line, and the modification of the distance requirement from 1,000 feet to 0 feet from a residentially zoned or developed property. It is recommended by motion to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and find the proposed zoning amendment inconsistent with the city's adopted comprehensive land use plan. However, the proposed use is compatible with adjacent properties within the surrounding area. Find the proposed zoning amendment is reasonable and in the public interest because the zoning is compatible with adjacent properties within the surrounding area, and adopt an ordinance changing the zoning of the property from general business to general industry conditional zoning, limiting the use of the property to the asphalt plant. Any questions for staff?
Do I have a motion to adopt the recommendation of the Planning Commission for Z621 asphalt plant?
Second.
First and second.
You make a motion, sir.
Somebody needs to make a motion.
Oh, make a motion to accept, item Z-6-21, asphalt plant, item M.
Second.
Second. First and second, any discussion? Call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Ham,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember Broadway,
Yes.
Councilmember Polak,
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews,
Yes.
Councilmember Aycock.
Here, Gene Aycock, yes.
The motion carries. Next item is the Z821 Tiny Home Village.
The property is located on the south side of South Slocum Street between Westbrook Road and Seymour Drive. The applicant's requesting a change of zone for the subject property from general business, residential manufactured non-conforming, and general industry I2 zoning district to a planned unit development, conditional zoning limiting the use of the property to a 40-unit tiny home village. Planned unit developments are considered a separate zoning district and require rezoning approval. These mixed-use developments provide a voluntary alternative development procedure for relatively large tracts of land held under unified ownership that are planned and developed in a coordinated manner. Surrounding zoning, to the north you have general business, to the south general industry I2, to the east general business and I2, and to the west general business, residential manufactured non-conforming, and general industry I2. In February of 2012, the Goldsboro City Council concurred with the recommendation of the Planning Commission and adopted an order approving a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a privately owned cemetery upon the subject property. In addition, the council approved site and landscape plans detailing the operation with a modification of the requirement for vehicular surface area landscaping. Now the owner has decided to cease development of the property for a cemetery and repurpose the property for residential development purposes, focusing upon the chronically homeless and unsheltered residents of the city of Goldsboro. The property is currently occupied by 3 metal buildings formerly proposed as covered pavilions for employees and customers of the private cemetery operation. The remaining portion of the property is clear and vacant. The city's comprehensive land use plan recommends commercial and industrial development for the property. The applicant did submit a concept plan for the planned unit development, conditional zoning request to limit the use of the property to the tiny home village. The applicant, however, has requested a waiver of full detailed site plan requirement at the time of rezoning. If the rezoning is approved, a North Carolina registered engineer is required to design the site plan in accordance with the city's Unified Development Ordinance and subject to city council approval. The proposed tiny home village will serve as transitional housing for use by individuals suffering from chronic homelessness throughout the city of Goldsboro. Approximately 40 1, 2, and 3 bedroom tiny homes are proposed for the site. Each home will be built to the North Carolina Building Code with an average of 900 square feet of floor space per unit. Amenities proposed for the village include an on-site 24/7 security, on-site facilities for medical services, mental health and substance abuse treatment, education, job training and placement services, exercise and fitness equipment, housing for pets, and walking trails for use by residents of the village. City water and sewer are available to serve the subject property. A portion of the property is located within a special flood hazard area known as the city's 100 and 500 floodplain. City engineering requirements pertaining to floodplain stormwater calculations and drainage shall be approved by staff prior to any issuance of any development permits. The subject property is located within the 6570 noise overlay zone for Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. Base officials have been contacted regarding the proposed development. We've actually met with the applicant and base officials. Even though the base has not provided us a formal documentation approving they don't necessarily approve, they just indicate whether it's compatible or incompatible. Typically that goes along with the site plan. But in discussions and verbal comments, the plans, the proposed use is compatible as long as the noise attenuation measures are met for individual homes. But a formal response will be provided to the city once they have site plans in hand and have also reviewed those. A portion of the subject property is located outside the city limits. Since city utilities are available, the developer will be required to annex into the city limits. At the public hearing held on June 21, the applicant, property owner, and 2 other persons appeared to speak in favor of the request. No one appeared to speak in opposition. Planning Commission at their meeting held on June 28th recommended approval for the requested change of zone from general business, residential, manufactured non-conforming, and general industry I2 zoning district to planned unit development conditional zoning, which would limit the property to 40 unit tiny home village. Although not consistent with the City of Goldsboro Comprehensive Land Use Plan, the Planning Commission's recommendation found the proposed use to be compatible with adjacent properties within the surrounding area. It is recommended by motion accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and find the proposed zoning amendment inconsistent with the city's comprehensive land use plan. However, proposed use is compatible with adjacent properties within the surrounding area. Find the proposed zoning amendment is reasonable and in the public interest because the zoning is compatible with adjacent properties. And adopt an ordinance changing the zoning of the property from general business, residential, manufactured, non-conforming, and general industry I-2 zoning district to plan unit development conditional zoning, which would limit the property to a 40-unit tiny home village. And this is just as a reminder, these are the proposed elevations that the applicant has provided that would be similar to the construction of the homes they are proposing. And this is the site in question. Any questions for staff?
Want to have questions of Jennifer? Is there a motion to adopt the Planning Commission's recommendation for approval?
I think somebody's here that might want to speak.
If we have a chance to speak.
Yeah, the public hearing's closed.
Oh, okay.
It's just for action tonight.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve and second the Planning Commission. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Ham,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember Broadway,
No.
Councilmember Polat.
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews,
Yes.
Councilmember Aycock.
His battery died. He's
Okay.
gone. That's why he's not on screen.
Okay, he's off, so.
Thank you.
So
But you
he's
still
counted
have
out. He's not counted, right?
That's
He's
correct.
now out of the meeting.
Yes, sir.
So the vote was 4-1, was it, or 5-0?
4-1.
Motion carried.
You're all voted in favor.
Yes. Everybody but Mr. Broadway.
Everybody.
I
Mr. Broadway.
just wanted-
Mr. Broadway
Okay.
voted against?
Okay.
Okay, that ends item 9. Move to the city manager's report.
Yes, sir. The City Parks and Rec, W.A. Foster Center, and Herman Park Center staff are supporting summer camps and feeding programs. Any school-aged child can go to either facility and receive lunch meals during the summer. They do not have to be registered for any of the programs. Our Part 1 serious crimes are down 10% for the month of June, 8% for 2021. So I'd like to thank our residents and visitors as well as the police department and their community policing efforts for making that so. Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple of announcements on resolutions. Go ahead, Mr. Paul.
So I'll be reading Annual National Night Out Proclamation. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch, NATW, is sponsoring a unique nationwide crime and drug prevention program on August 3rd, 2021 called National Night Out. And whereas the annual National Night Out provides a unique opportunity for the city of Goldsboro to join forces with the thousands of other communities across the county in promoting cooperative police community crime and drug prevention efforts. And whereas the city of Goldsboro plays a vital role in assisting the Goldsboro Police Department and Wayne County Sheriff's Department through joint crime and drug prevention efforts in the city and county, and is supporting National Night Out 2021 locally. And whereas it is essential that all citizens of the city of Goldsboro to be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and the impact and their participation can have on reducing crime and drug abuse in Goldsboro and Wayne County. And whereas police community partnerships, neighborhood safety and awareness and cooperation are important themes of the National Night Out program. And now, therefore, I, David Ham, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Goldsboro, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021 as the annual National Night Out in the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, and do hereby call upon all citizens of the City of Goldsboro to join the National Association of Town Watch in supporting the National Night Out, August 3rd, 2021. A witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and affixed the seal of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina on the 12th day, July 2021.
That's a big event to a lot of people. I've been down to it several times, and I'm glad that we can continue it. I'm going to read the last resolution. Mary Ellen has received numerous accolades and recognition for his 20-plus years of service to the city of Goldsboro, including the recent order of the longleaf pine and the designation of a segment of Highway 70 in his name. But they keep coming through. So I have another one to read. This one has already been presented to him, but I'm not sure that the citizens of Goldsboro really had a full coverage of it, so I'm going to read it. This is a resolution of the Board of Directors of the North Carolina League of Municipalities in recognition and appreciation of lasting contributions to municipal government. This meritorious individual lifetime membership award is presented to Chuck Allen. Whereas Chuck Allen has made lasting contributions to the city of Goldsboro and cities and towns throughout North Carolina, and whereas Chuck Allen has shown unrivaled dedication to municipal government and made substantial contributions to help cities and towns improve the lives of their residents, and whereas Chuck Allen's faithful service to this state and its cities and towns has set an example to all, as seen in his tireless work and leadership on the behalf of the North Carolina League of Municipalities Board of Directors, Military Host Cities Coalition, and Metropolitan Mayors Coalition. And whereas Chuck Allen, in more than 2 decades as a member of the Goldsboro City Council and Mayor of Goldsboro, has been instrumental in seeing the city's downtown transformed, its relationship with Seymour Johnson Air Force Base grow stronger and the local economy flourish. And whereas Chuck Allen, through his leadership, has ensured that North Carolina's relationship with the U.S. military has remained as strong as any state in the country, and through his work with state legislators has assisted North Carolina cities and towns in gaining resources and maintaining the local authority to address the unique needs of each. And whereas Chuck Allen has championed bringing people together in common purpose to better the state, as seen in his 2018 statement to state leaders at NCL's Town and State Dinner. We are one North Carolina, and we've got to work towards being one North Carolina. That was the title of his speech. And whereas Chuck Allen, during his time on the NCLM Board of Directors, has helped transform the organization to a modern advocacy and service organization with clear purpose and the ability to connect with state leaders to advance policies that keep municipalities strong. And whereas Chuck Allen has worked ceaselessly at the state and local level to create job growth, economic vitality, and improve citizens' quality of life. Now therefore be it resolved that the NCL Board of Directors on this 6th day of July 2021 formally acknowledges and extends its sincere gratitude to Chuck Allen and presents to him this meritorious lifetime membership in recognition and appreciation of the lasting contributions of the municipal government. Adopted this day, the 6th day of July 2021 in the city of Raleigh, North Carolina, Karen Alexander, President of North Carolina League of Municipalities, on behalf of the board. So, as I said, this was not made as notice to everyone in the city, and I wanted to make sure that it was on our website and for our public in appreciation for Mayor Allen's work that he's done over these 20 years. Okay, we'll go around the horn here, so to speak. Would anyone start? I'll start with, how about you, Ms. Matthews?
No comment.
No comment. Mr. Pont?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone that sent up prayers for me in my absence of the last meeting and dealing with a personal issue. I also want to let my constituents, as well as the residents within the city, know that my ideas are always solicited in my absence. I did read an article, I think Ms. Paul's behind my wife, but I intentionally got the special meeting reorganized so that I could vote on issues that I can vote on. And I want to thank the department heads for coming up with a time and date on June 18th, whereas my vote would be heard. I knew that the discussion on some of the issues on that meeting I missed June 21st were not issues that affected me personally and that were not voted on. So I wanted to clarify that. And also the date of my absence was given to the city clerk as well as the mayor pro tem in advance, and my thoughts were heard and my concerns were addressed. In closing, I want to acknowledge the accomplishment of a local hero and friend of mine, Dr. Tamil Hayes. This young man commuted tirelessly to Rutgers University, which is about 30 minutes south of New York during the corona pandemic, to acquire his PhD. And I think that was an awesome accomplishment. I tell my students all the time that sometimes academia is overshadowed by athletics. So I do want them to know that there's a local hometown hero that acquired his doctorate degree during the corona pandemic. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir. I did vote against the tiny village, but I want to applaud Mr. Rice on his tireless efforts for the benefits of the homeless and how many times he has tried several places, and he's done a wonderful job. And Mr. Rice should be a lot of people have called in your support and said just what good things you have done, and I wanted to acknowledge that. My denial was based on, I just wanted a little more detail, a little more on funding, and a little more on what this commission can do, that we can get some money out there to get something done. That was my denial. But it passed, but I applaud you for your efforts, sir.
Ms. Jones?
Yes, I would just like to thank my constituents for their phone calls of encouragement and the phone calls of things that they would like for me to work on. I hear you, and I am going to do those things. My voice is your voice. Your voice is my voice. And thank you for the calls, and continue to call me.
Is that Ms. Jones?
Yes, and I want to say to Mr. Rice, I know that our vote was based on planning, what the planning said for the zoning. And we know that I want to see this succeed, so we know that we're going to have to come up with a good, plan financially, how you're going to move the people in, how they're going to move out, how you're going to have quality assurance, and the funding. So I'm looking forward to helping you if and when I can, and I really want you to succeed, because when you succeed in this endeavor, we succeed.
So I'm going to speak to Mr. Rice also. I did vote in favor of your, but I voted with reservations, I'll be honest with you. You have a big concept here, and you have little resources at this point. Not to say you won't get them, but you have little resources. You have an idea, and there have been big things made out of ideas from small people. Not to say you're small. I'm talking about, they didn't have resources is what I'm getting at. I was particularly concerned with the fact that you didn't submit a site plan, and I know you will have to submit one, but that's not just a simple building that you're proposing to build there. There are multiple homes there. There's support facilities, medical, dining hall, et cetera, and so having a site plan, and you'll have to bring one back to us, of course, but I went that step beyond what I would normally say and voted without a site plan. The other thing, and I have the newspaper item here, interview that you gave, and it's very well written, and I commend you on it. But you speak of financing there as well, and that you'll need support from the city, county, industry, you name it. Lots of money. Now, we've spoken already of ARP funds, but that's not for Mr. Rice only. That's for lots of organizations, how we address this homeless issue here. And the third thing, quite frankly, is the area that you're going into, that you propose to build this. Without going into specifics here, we have crime issues out there. And the people that you'll be trying to help are at-risk people already. And I don't want them to be preyed upon by people trying to take advantage of them. That's a concern of mine. I know you have a on-site security in your plan, but these people are already taken advantage of by lots of things. Life in general is taken advantage of them. So I commend you for what you're doing, but I ask you sincerely, take it slow and plan accordingly. Get your resources lined up, and don't do a half-assed job of this, okay? Because you're not going to succeed if you do. All right.
Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Cremati would like to speak. He was standing up.
Well, sir?
Pardon me for this moment of privilege. I did come up in support of Mr. Rice. He had asked me to come up. I have known of his project over the last 3 years, and it's the people that he's trying to serve that is very important. But I do not take it light that you all would want to have all the X's and O's. Ms. Hawaka, thank you for saying the words that you said. Let's make sure that all the things are done so that it is a success. I want to just thank the Goldsboro City Council for moving forward on such a grand step. Things are done by dreamers. Things are started by dreamers and accomplished by those who do the X's and O's. And so thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Okay, if there are no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
There being no opposition, the meeting adjourned.
All in favor?